City Council meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. on January 5th, 2026. We will begin with a moment for prayer or reflection. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respect to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. Adoption of previous council meeting minutes. The minutes are dated December 15th, 2025. Any errors or omissions? Okay, seeing none. The council adopts the December 15th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented. Adoption of the agenda. We have one item, business arising out of closed, and we will add that. Just gonna grab a pen. Do you want to add that to new business? Under new business, item 10.2. Any other additions or amendments? Okay, seeing none, because we're making an amendment, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So move.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Pfaff, and we will vote. And that is unanimous. Next item we have is the councillor announcements. Does anyone have a councillor announcement today? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to address concerns. I know the community has expressed them to many of us, and there is a shared concern for the unhoused population in the city during the winter months, and we're experiencing some very cold weather, and then the next day it kind of warms up again, but it's consistently winter weather and certainly no condition to be sleeping rough or spending much time outside. Unfortunately, SafeLink has been operating a daytime drop-in center, which was being used perhaps even more because of the limitations that the mustard seed has experienced with respect to their overnight sheltering, which they're continuing to provide, although it's challenged from the perspective of the number of beds they can provide. In any event, SafeLink had applied for funding, was funding that came from the Government of Canada, and without going through all the details of their approvals and processes, very recently in December, the province denied approval for the city to enter into the agreement with, correct me, Mr. Hutter, if I'm getting this wrong, with the SafeLink for the provision of this service, citing misalignment with Alberta's mental health, addiction, and recovery priorities. Now, I'm not going to try and explain that, but that was the gist of the reasoning. The funding, I guess, comes to us and would then be provided to SafeLink to operate this facility, but we have been told we cannot forward it because of SafeLink's misalignment. So if Mr. Hutter has anything he can add in terms of the follow-up to that, is there an appeal? Is there being made to the cabinet, or where we're at? But that we are going to lose that service right away. It costs $300,000 to operate that for the year, and that funding has been denied.
Just one point of clarification before I go to City Manager Hutter. We won't be receiving the funding either, so it's not like we just
Yeah,
can't
okay.
transfer it. Interim City Manager Hutter?
Thank you, and through the chair to Councillor Cox. No, I'm not aware of any formal process where we can appeal. Obviously, council has the opportunity to voice, any disagreement with that decision, but no, I'm not aware of any formal avenue that's available, and like you mentioned, Councillor Cox, that will cause the daytime services to close down, as it requires about $300,000 in funding to run annually.
So I guess the long and the short of it is we can expect to see more of that population shuddering and shivering over hot air registers and vents in the city's streets.
Thank you for that announcement. I have an announcement as well. We are going to be moving to post-council, this is mostly for the media, post-council scrums. So instead of the media interviewing us kind of one at a time and waiting around, we're gonna allot 20 minutes for a post-council scrum. Administration will also be available to answer questions. Colleen's going to be reaching out, our Director of Communications is going to be reaching out to kind of identify in the future what your technical needs are in terms of being able to capture council's comments in the scrum and administration's comments. But for tonight, we're gonna try it just sitting where we are. And I suppose if you have concerns with that, you can email Colleen and let her know whether or not that will work. So it'll be a 20-minute scrum after the council meeting, media scrum. Okay, any other councillor announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda for discussion? Councillor Varga.
I'd love to pull 8.6, also 8.9, and I don't know what the public service one is, but it's on page 87. But the first one's 8.6 and then 8.9. And what's the last one?
Public Services Committee Meeting Action
8.10.
Items 8.
I just have some comments on those three,
Okay.
if I might. Am I
Yes. Well, let's get a motion to approve the consent, unless anyone has anything else they want to remove. We'll get a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Cox seconded, and we will vote. And that's unanimous. Councillor Varga, beginning, I guess, with 8.6?
Yep, the Community Vibrancy Advisory Board. I guess I'm just a good news story where the guidelines and criteria are out there, and I think we give money away to some great organizations. So I just think it's a good news story that people that apply for these grants get some money to help them out. So I think it's a good news story. So I've seen how much they get and what they use it for. So I think it's a good thing in our community. 8.9, the Resilient Inclusive Community. I'm glad to see that Mr. Chris Samraj has been put on as the chair. He was an important part of our council 4 years ago, so it's nice to see him staying involved with things that are happening within the city. And then, just bear with me for the public service one. Yeah, I just got to get, I'm just wondering, on that, the action items, if we've done the 2 action items, which is the downtown enhancement and safety grants, and I guess the mustard seed update, you gave a little bit of that, Councillor Cox. So I don't know if there's anything more to say on that. And on the first one with the creation of the grant to support businesses in downtown core.
So I'm, City Manager Hutter is assigned to that committee as the administration support. So do you have an answer for Councillor Varga?
Yes, thank you, and through the chair to Councillor Varga. On item number 1, the Downtown Enhancement and Safety Grant, we're currently working in conjunction with the Economic Development Department on this grant. We presented back in December to the task force on kind of the concept of a grant, received some feedback from there, and we'll be bringing that through admin committee, public services committee, and ultimately to council in Q1 of 2026. And on number 2, the mustard seed update, the previous council, there was a motion for a mustard seed update to be on each public services and each D&I committee agenda, just for updates. So there's no specific update. It's just to keep that committee updated on the work that's being done.
On the first one with the grants, has there been any interest in that? Have you, or has it not come out yet?
Yeah, sorry, it hasn't been released yet. So
okay.
Under the previous council, it was approved somewhat in principle, but there were a few, some of the parameters within the grant, there had been some disagreement on. So we've kind of worked to try to take some of those comments and build it into a grant proposal that will come to this council for ultimate approval.
That was my other question. Is it going to come through us before it goes out to the public?
So the budget is in place. It's just the parameters of the grant are to be determined, but I would say it's pretty close to being there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I please get a motion to adopt items 8.6, 8.9, and 8.10?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We will vote on the motion. And that's unanimous. Next up, we have a public hearing. 9.1, Bylaw 4862 to rezone 10.64 First Street Southwest. I'm going to call that public hearing to order at 6:43 p.m. on January 5th, 2026. So now that the public hearing is opened, we will have administration introduce the bylaw, or in this case, bylaw. Then the applicant, if they are present, can have a maximum of 10 minutes to make a presentation to council. Following administration's presentation, council can ask questions of administration and the applicant. After that, I'm going to ask the clerk for the notification report, and then I will invite members of the public to speak, including any members of the public attending through electronic means. So we'll do a round of those in support, and we will deal with the comments within the gallery first, and then if there's any online. If you have a comment online, can you please use the raise hand function to alert us that you have a presentation, and we will get to you. Then I'll ask if there's anyone who wants to present in opposition of the bylaw. And again, gallery first, and then anyone online who wishes to speak. So once we have, each person who presents, other than the applicant, will have 5 minutes to make their presentation. There will be a clock that you can see on the screen above. And then, of course, council may ask members of the public who come forward to speak questions, and administration on any points raised by the public. And then I will close the public hearing, and we will deal with any business arising from the public hearing. Just as a quick reminder to council, during the public hearing, we are looking for questions only. No opinions or debate should occur during the public hearing. So with that, I will ask for the introduction by administration. Perhaps Managing Director Bohan, if you would like to introduce.
Thank you, Your Worship. And what we have today is a presentation from Manager Gensch, and he's supported here today by Senior Planner Brad Irwin. So I'm going to hand it over to them to present to you today.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a correction. I'm not a manager. Planning superintendent is what they call me. That's okay,
Field
though.
promotion, sorry.
Yeah,
Superintendent sounds pretty high up.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council, good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Jim Gensch. I'll be making the presentation. My colleague Brad Irwin is here also to help support this application. The city's land and real estate department submitted an application to rezone the vacant parcel located at 1064 First Street Southwest from mixed-use district to medium-density residential district. Land use bylaw amendments must be referred to council for decision. This application is being brought forward as a result of 2 motions made by the previous council. The first motion made on July 7th, 2025, directed administration to provide a report on zoning options for this property for council's consideration. The second motion made on September 2nd, 2025, directed land and real estate to submit an application to rezone the property from mixed-use district to medium-density residential district. Harlow is a popular neighborhood with typical suburban characteristics. The neighborhood is shown on the slide as the area bound by the South Saskatchewan River, the Trans-Canada Highway, and First Street Southwest. The neighborhood has undergone a long-term transition to consist mostly of low-density development, shown in yellow. Most of the properties are developed with single detached houses. There are 2 medium-density sites developed with townhomes, and non-residential development includes park space, the Windmill Garden Center, a car wash, and a motel. The municipal development plan describes a concept called livable neighborhoods, where optimal neighborhood structure in terms of land use and density is generally outlined as having low-density residential located within the interior of a neighborhood, medium-density residential, mixed-use development, or neighborhood commercial located along major streets, and a variety of housing types and designs throughout a neighborhood that support shifting demographics, a variety of family structures, and all ages, abilities, income levels, and ownership structures. a very important consideration within any neighborhood when arranging density and built forms is achieving an appropriate transition between varying levels of density. This property is the only vacant site available for infill development in Harlow. Existing utility infrastructure, municipal services, and arterial and local roads give the property the capacity to accommodate a variety of compatible and complementary development. Vacant sites within existing neighborhoods can present challenges in terms of balancing local neighborhood expectations and overall community needs. The MDP emphasizes the importance of taking a balanced approach to accommodating growth through infill development, and the MDP encourages as much infill as the market and the community deems acceptable. An important point to underscore here with regard to the term community is that within the context of MDP policy, this broad term consists of numerous components. In infill situations, there can be competing interests between the overall Medicine-Hat community and the local community where infill development is proposed. On this slide, we have a number of typical low-density suburban neighborhoods and their densities. The density of Harlow is on the low end of low density when compared to other areas. On this slide, we have an aerial view of the property. What we have on the next few slides are a number of examples of what could be achieved if the property was zoned medium density. The concepts factor in a 2-story height maximum as per the motion of the previous council. This slide shows a concept with 7 2-story semi-detached dwellings for a total of 14 dwellings. This concept shows 4 single-story cross-pattern fourplexes for a total of 16 units. This concept shows 3 2-story fourplexes of a more modern design for a total of 12 units. And finally, this concept shows 3 2-story 4-unit row houses for a total of 12 units. These concepts with dwelling counts between 12 and 16 units would achieve a density of between 33 and 44 units per hectare. The minimum density requirement of the medium density residential district is 25 units per hectare, and the maximum density allowed is 75 units per hectare for the kinds of built forms within the concepts shown. The role of planning and development services in rezoning applications is to present relevant information to City Council in order to support a decision. In the report, we list a number of considerations that hopefully help put the situation into perspective. We've touched on policy considerations such as growth and infill goals and local expectations and broader community needs. Other important issues include the mandate of the Land and Real Estate Department and the broader economic benefits of redevelopment. This concludes the presentation. The formal request for decision is shown on the slide. Council may approve or refuse the rezoning application. Please note that on December 3rd, the Municipal Planning Commission recommended that City Council approve this application. If the application is refused, the zoning of the property will remain mixed-use district. Approval to rezone to medium density would not approve any specific development concept over the property. The concepts provided were intended to be helpful visuals of what could be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any speakers on the speakers list. I do have one question. On your slide outlining the July 7th motion that was made, I will note that the motion did include whichever is less qualifier, so to limit development on the property to a maximum of 2 stories or a maximum building height of 10.5 meters from grade level, comma, whichever is less. I anticipate that was just to get it on this, like, shorthand on the slide. Can you confirm that it is whichever is less?
Your worship, you're correct. I apologize for the, I'm not exactly sure where I pasted that from, but you're correct. There's a little bit missing.
Councillor Cox?
Thank you, Your Worship. To Mr. Genge, a couple of questions. One is on your density comparisons, which were part of your presentation there. I am trying to understand, make sure I know what we're talking about here. Were those all low density, or were they a mix of low density and medium density to achieve those numbers?
So
I don't know if we can bring that slide back up. Suburban density comparison. So Harlow, you had 15 units per hectare, Southlands, 22 units per hectare, and so forth. Are you only accounting for low density units? Or?
Your worship, to Councillor Cox, these are net densities, so it would be the densities of the entire neighborhood.
So it would include multifamily projects like fourplexes, duplexes, small apartment buildings?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And for Harlow, when you're saying 15 units per hectare, that's as Harlow exists today without making any, building in any number of units for the proposed site. That's not included in that number. It would obviously raise it if they were constructed.
Your worship, through you to Councillor Cox, that's correct. These are current densities, and the general purpose of the slide is just to provide some context. Hopefully it's helpful for comparisons.
Well, I think it is helpful, but I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what, if we were comparing oranges to oranges or oranges to apples and oranges. 25 to 75 units is the minimum density, as I understood you to say. I guess minimum and maximum density for medium density districts. Am I understanding that correctly?
So your worship, through you to Councillor Cox, that 25 units per hectare is what that 25 means.
Yes, per hectare.
Yeah.
And so, okay, per hectare. So this, so exactly what does that mean? I mean, in terms of, like, are we saying that a developer has to build a minimum of 25 units to a hectare of land?
Your worship,
But if it's a smaller parcel, obviously it would be fewer number of units. I'm just a little confused there, what that minimum, like, whose guideline is that? Is that for the planning department, or is that for the developer?
Your worship, to Councillor Cox, I would, so that is the standard
you-
within the
I
medium.
apologize. Can you speak up just a little bit? Thank you.
The minimum density of 25 units per hectare is the standard of that district, the medium density residential district.
So would that be all of the medium density districts, lots within Harlow, for instance, or like,
Anywhere. Any piece of property that's zoned medium density residential is bound by that rule.
so that means?
And it's per hectare, so the size of the lot
Oh,
would come
would
in.
lower that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hellman,
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question regarding the height restrictions that you presented there. I know a concern in the neighborhood is how tall these structures will be. So it noted 2 stories or 10.5 meters, whichever is less. But I know typically for a 2-story is 8 meters. So I wonder if you can explain why the extra 2.5 meters would be included in there, and if they're necessary, or if this is something that can be amended to 8.
Your worship, through you to members of council, the land use bylaw and the Planning and Development Services Department does not have a height restriction on this property. The 10.5 meter restriction was what I can't explain. It was a motion made by the previous council. So that's about as much as I can say about that. That was the direction provided to the Land and Real Estate Department to restrict through the sales agreement, not through the land use bylaw. So the height restrictions of the medium density residential district are 3 stories or 12 meters.
So sorry, this was council's direction for the sales agreement. So council could give direction to change that to whatever they felt for the sales agreement?
Your worship, just a clarifying question, are you talking about current council could change?
Yes.
Yes.
can I believe I asked this question at the previous council meeting. Can I just ask Managing Director Bohan if he recalls where the 10.5 came from?
Yeah, I don't. Again, just echoing comments made by Superintendent Genge. This was not provided by the planning department. It was actually brought forward by a councillor, not through consultation directly with the department. So I should also point out that through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Hellman, that the suggestion that we reduce the height to below 10.5 meters or 8 meters, that becomes a challenge from a constructability perspective for different stories and how you would classify that. It does create more challenges for the planning department to execute, so.
Apologize for the interruption, go ahead.
Sorry, so reducing it from 10.5 to 8 would create challenges, or reducing it below 8?
So it's actually, we've got, the land use bylaw for medium density is 12 meters, and it was moved by council to reduce that to 10.5 meters or 2 stories, whichever is less. And I think we would have to take into consideration the impact of 8 meters into constructability, and I think that would have an impact on the landowner's efforts at marketing the site.
It is a bit strangely worded, and I apologize that we didn't maybe have that more clear. Councillor Pfaff.
So, just so I'm fully clear, we're discussing altering the zoning of this parcel of land from mixed use to medium density. Yes, okay. So, and I'm just currently on the land use bylaw, and it says, under discretionary uses of mixed use, the permitted uses are like healthcare offices, that sort of thing. But the discretionary use does include apartments and attached housing, which is the same discretionary use as medium density residential, which is what we're talking about changing it to. So I guess my question is, why are we even talking about this? Can't it already happen?
Your worship, we are here in response to a motion from, two motions made from the previous council. So that, and specifically, the Planning and Development Services Department is here because we're facilitating an application. The direction from the previous council was made to the Land and Real Estate Department.
Okay. Councillor Young, did you have your hand up? No. Okay, so the original motion that was amended on July 7th and passed was that council directs administration report back to council with options for council's consideration that would accomplish the following objectives: to restrict development at 1064 First Street Southwest to a single-family residential or medium density, and to limit development on the property to a maximum of 2 stories or maximum building height of 10.5 meters from grade level, whichever is less. So I believe Mr. Ganj is just presenting the options requested. Yeah, okay. Any other questions at this point? No, is the applicant, I guess, are we the applicant in this case? Yeah, okay, so you've done your presentation. And now I will move to anyone, oh, go ahead.
So, your worship, just to clarify, we are not the applicant. The Land and Real Estate Department is the applicant.
My apologies.
So,
Thank you for the clarification.
I don't know whether they want to make a presentation.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will have a presentation from the Land and Real Estate Department, who is the applicant. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Genge. You have a maximum of 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through the chair, I don't have a presentation on this, but I did want to provide a little bit more background information on how we got to where we are today. As Jim mentioned as well, the city's owned the property since the 1970s, and it was required for upgrades to the Trans-Canada Highway. But it was determined in 2020 that it was no longer required for these purposes and that it could be sold. So the property is we know is zoned mixed use, but the city did enter into a sales agreement with a developer in 2023 with conditions. The developer made a development permit application, which was appealed. However, the STAB did uphold that decision. So in 2024, the developer decided not to proceed with the transaction and the sales agreement was terminated. With where we are at today, our department brought forward a briefing note in September of 2025 that outlined options regarding the potential zoning of this site based on direction from the previous council. So through that briefing note, we presented 4 options. It was status quo, to keep the zoning as mixed use, to bring forward a application to rezone to medium density residential, to bring forward a recommendation for single family residential or direct control. Based on that and the pros and cons that were presented, the recommendation was to rezone the property to medium density residential and then to use the purchase and sales agreement to restrict the height to 2 stories or 10.5 meters, whichever is less.
Thank you very much. this is just a procedural question, and probably guessing is not for you, but maybe City Clerk, when if council decides to not approve the bylaw, then as Councillor Pfaff said, it would revert to a discretionary use. Like well, it would revert to mixed use with discretionary use for some residential, I apologize. And if we approve it, do we also at this time need to, because this is the response to the July 7th, 2025 motion, do we also need to include in, the bylaw and then make another motion to, regarding the height restrictions? City Clerk? Okay.
Your worship, I'll try to clarify. If this application is refused, the site remains mixed-use district, and you have the existing permitted and discretionary uses as well as regulations that would apply. Regardless of whether this is refused or approved, current council could leave the previous council's motion untouched, or they could make their own motion with regard to anything they would like that might be able to be implemented through a sales agreement.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, I think you were saying we need to have a motion, an additional motion.
If council wishes to change from the 10.5 to an ultra height through the sales agreement, just like Mr. Gensch said, that would change.
Okay, so my question was based on the fact that this is already the response, and what we're being asked to do is approve a bylaw with a zoning change, and then it will become that zoning?
Yeah, that's.
And
Yes,
then,
that's
so we would
correct.
have to make another motion?
For the height, for the sales agreement,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Varga?
Thank you, Your Worship. We talked about this in MPC, which we moved on to council to get approval for this. And we looked at some of the case history of the height was too big and things were happening with the shadowing and things like that. So that's why the 10.5 came in. It's not the 8 because what I think is the process here, the 10.5 is from the front street and the 10.5 is also from the alleyway also, right? Is it not? Or is it 10.5 straight across? So at the back end, it would be a lot higher than that. Is that what I'm reading or not reading? I know that's a
Mr.
stickler
Genge?
with most of the letters that we got, so
The
I just
motion-
want clarification, that's all.
Yeah. So the
Yes.
motion is from grade. Go ahead.
Your worship, I can clarify from the perspective of the land use bylaw and how we would process an application, that building height, as I flip through here. Sorry.
No worries, take your time.
Sorry, my only concern is that the back, it's back to front, or front to back, and the slope is to the back, of course. So if you were to go straight across at 10.5, you'd be a little bit higher in the back end, I believe, correct? So I'm not sure if that's going to create controversy, or it's not going to be good enough, or that's my only concern on that, right?
So your worship, building height in the land use bylaw is defined as the distance between the geodetic grade of the first floor to the peak of the roof. That's how the land use bylaw considers height. As far as the restrictions within any sales agreement, I would defer to the Land and Real Estate Department.
So grade level has nothing to do with the land use bylaw. Okay. So perhaps we could consider that in our motion from grade level. Okay, well, that's a, something we may need to take a little break on if once we get outside of the hearing. Okay, so now is the time of the public hearing where I ask if there are any members of the public in the gallery who wish to speak in support of the bylaw. Please come down to the podium, sign in, and state your first and last name. For a second time, if there are any members of the public in support of the bylaw, go ahead. Okay, there should be a sign-up sheet there.
There is.
Thank you. State your first and last name for the
My name
record.
is Patty Jo Folliott.
Thank you. And you will have 5 minutes if we can get the clock up.
Only 5 minutes, okay.
It's
Should have brought our
fast.
full presentation tonight because our whole community got together and presented everything last time. But first of all, I'll just say that I'm really grateful and encouraged that we have the opportunity to be heard in regard to the zoning of this lot at 1064 First Street Southwest. I must admit that I really never paid much attention to the empty plot of land situated there until 2 years ago, when a sold sign and a sales building suddenly appeared. That is where our community's journey began, which continues with the rezoning proposal we are speaking to this evening. As we have stated over the last couple of years, our community is not opposed to development there, just the type of structure proposed, the impact to our neighborhood, and the opportunity to be heard before the development is approved. As a community, we were not invited to be heard until after the development was approved. At that point, we banded together to present our concerns. We focused on a number of topics, including infrastructure, traffic flow, safety, height, including sunlight shadow concerns, and privacy. I learned a lot. The area I addressed was traffic flow. I became very educated in regard to traffic bylaws, road widths, and allowances, including emergency services access, etc. And if you have never ever navigated the Super S curve leading onto Greenwood Court from First Street Southwest, you can begin to understand that high density or mixed use housing or high density or mixed use areas are a big concern with traffic. In addition, as a resident here, I am so pleased to see how many young families are choosing to raise their children in our neighborhood. The newly developed playground, which we were in consultation with, and neighborhood pathways are definitely inviting for families to get outside and enjoy all these amenities. However, in accessing our pathways and playgrounds, increased traffic resulting from high-density housing would definitely put their lives at risk. In fact, a playground zone was established there as a result of a previous child fatality. Medium density rezoning would definitely alleviate many of our concerns. However, we would like you to consider the height of the development when devising the rezoning. I didn't realize until we developed our presentation 2 years ago the impact that height can have on a neighborhood. I was educated about shadow studies and the limited amount of sunlight the houses like ours would experience with developments over 2 stories. The houses directly behind the building would have little to no sunlight during the winter months. Without going into further detail, you have heard my main concerns regarding rezoning of this lot. However, in closing, all I ask is that we can work together so that our neighborhood's well-being and character is taken into consideration, and that our voices be heard and considered in any future rezoning and/or development. We certainly appreciate being heard this evening, and we look forward to working with the city in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council?
Yes,
Councillor Varga?
please don't go away. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Patty Jo.
What is it, sorry?
Patty Jo.
Patty Jo.
It's kind of unforgettable.
I just wonder if you looked at some of the concepts that are given to you up top here?
Yes.
And if any of them appeal to you?
Yes, they do.
Okay,
I think we're in agreement that this is much more suitable than 2 4-story condominiums
okay,
that were approved previously.
yes. Of course, it was
I
supposed to be
feel-
a 4-story building, so.
Two
yeah.
4-story buildings.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that from you, actually, so.
Yes.
And as long as we keep, is the 10.5 an issue anymore?
I have someone in
Right,
part of our
and
group
this-
that will speak to
yeah.
that and why the height is important because of the way the lot sits.
Right.
And that will be addressed. So I appreciate you asking me that question because, yes, I can see a lot of heads nodding. Those would be absolutely acceptable. Yeah, not 2-story, not 2 4-story condominium buildings.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand. It changed the whole character of the area, so.
Oh, safety,
But I just
traffic.
wanted to know whether you like the concepts that are here, 1 or 2 of them, or 3 of them, or all of
Yes.
them. I don't know if you like
Yeah.
them all or not, but
Yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, we're in the business to work together and make sure that we have development happen.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I'm hearing from our staff that over 10 years, it'll bring in $325,000. So that's pretty good tax base that comes into that area by building those things, so.
Yes, no, absolutely. We're not against, no, not against construction, not
Thank
against
you for your-
development, and they looked
Thank
good
you
to
for your
me.
comments.
Thank you. We have Councillor Reinish.
Hi, Patty Jo, how are you?
Good.
Ideally, what would you and your group like to see on that lot? Nothing, or would you like to see something?
Oh, no, I think that we're in agreement that something is definitely, called for. We just need to take into consideration the size of that lot, the infrastructure that's there, the traffic flow. So when you're looking at some of the proposals that you had up on the screen, I think those would be manageable. But when you get, the amount of cars that would be, leaving and coming and going and accessing First Street from that narrow Greenwood court, I invite you to drive down there if you haven't, to turn left. That's how I tell people to get there.
Yeah.
Turn left at the car wash. These streets are so narrow that the amount of traffic that would have been produced by that high density or even some of the mixed use would just be, it would be crazy. Nobody would be able to get on and off First Street.
Right.
And then there's Red Deer Drive that you're trying to get onto because you can't turn east from First Street anymore. So you have to go up Red Deer Drive, which is, it's something else.
With the recent construction that was down there and the detours, I have seen much more of your neighborhood than ever before.
Yes,
So,
yes. And so you understand a bit of our concern.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for third and final time, if anyone is in support of the bylaw, if you could come down to the podium. I'm kind of anticipating that there's some people who aren't coming down to the podium who do want to talk. If you could just raise your hand so that so that's 4 people, and then we can go one by one and you don't have to stand at the podium.
Point of order.
Yes.
Should the speakers should declare whether they're for or opposed to the bylaw.
Yeah, so.
It might give us a better indication of where we're starting out at here.
So right now, we're only dealing with those in support of the bylaw.
In support of it.
And
okay.
then, after that, individuals who are opposed to the bylaw will have an opportunity.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Thank you. I'll help you here, Ms. Councillor Cox. Ashley Large, I'm in favor of this bylaw. Professional associations always run it that way, where you state right away whether you're in favor or favor. Yes, I've owned my property, my house in the neighborhood since 2007. Although I will admit that for a period of time I wasn't living there and I did have it rented out. Sorry, neighbors, but yeah, I'm speaking in favor of this. I think this is a great change. I did want to put on record a couple of things I think are worth noting. So the change to a mixed use development for that lot was done in June of 2013. Now, if anyone else can remember what else happened in June of 2013, that would have significantly impacted our neighborhood's ability to discuss a change of bylaw to that lot. So during our last 2 years, there's been a lot of people fighting with our neighborhood about why didn't you bring this up when it was changed to mixed use? Well, that's why. Because we were busy trying to make sure our neighborhood didn't flow down the South Saskatchewan River with the rest of the flood. So that is one of the reasons that the neighborhood was a bit surprised by the change and why we you saw a flurry, or some of you saw a flurry of activity for the development. I think that the proposed ideas that have been shown to us are a wonderful fit for our neighborhood. I think that most of us in the neighborhood understand we do need to densify. The figures indicate that we're definitely one of the lowest density neighborhoods possibly, although I would ask somebody to clarify whether all those neighborhoods shown on the screen were built in the 70s. Because if you're built after the 70s, things change substantially with your densification. But yeah, that's mostly what I had to bring up. As I said, in favor, I am a neighbor in this. I live less than a block away. This is a neighborhood I've been in for a long time. It is a pretty unique neighborhood. We'd like to keep it that way. But I think that the proposed developments, yeah, good point. The proposed developments are, I think, acceptable to most of us. We do want to have some discussion around the height, and the reason being the front to back of that lot, so the front that faces onto First Street is likely where the properties will be obviously accessing, meaning their first floor will likely be around that area of First Street. The back of the lots, I'm gonna guess, 3 meters? 12 to 14 feet. No, that's pretty close then, not bad, not bad. So the back of the lot's about 12 to 14 feet lower than where it exits onto First Street. So, and that's why we have the concern, a bit of concern with the height. 10.5 meters at the front of the lot would be closer to would be closer to the 12, 13 meters at the rear of the lot, which of course the rear of the lot is where it backs onto properties. The other question I would bring up, and it'll be something for the planning department, is just to ensure that with the increased traffic along that lane is probably a 6-meter lane, with the fact that all of those units will have to park at the back off that lane, there might be consideration as to whether that lane should be widened or whether easement should be taken to allow vehicles to get in and out of there without damaging the neighboring fences consistently and constantly. Same thing with the service vehicles and such, as the same kind of thoughts or considerations. I don't think I had anything else to bring up. No, it was good. Okay, I just couldn't remember.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any questions?
Questions? Councillor Pfaff, I believe you have one.
Yeah, it's actually, sorry, it's not for you, but it's something you brought up, about the height.
Sure.
Yes, if we're measuring it from the first floor, it would be based on the street value. So yes, you would have that 3-meter difference. So on the back end, potentially you'd have 13.5. Is that correct, Pat? Or Managing Director Boland?
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Pfaff. There's a number of concepts that are under consideration. I think we saw several options, but if it was going to be measured, there'd likely be, it would be from First Street, because the grade does drop toward the back lane. But there may be a below grade or below the street level retaining wall. It's possible that it will be reduced slightly on the front end, just to make it constructible.
Right.
But again, these are all concepts. These are, we don't have a development permit in front of us today. But the idea is, one of the ideas is a 2-story with a walkout basement to a concrete pad or potentially garage down the road in the back, adjacent to the lane. So you would probably see a reduction in the shadowing as well, just by sheer virtue of the grade and the location of the property. But again, that's really depends on what is presented to our planning department for a development permit.
But tonight, we're also potentially talking about putting a height restriction on there too.
Yes, I am going to foreshadow that when it comes to business arising, given the kind of disjointedness between what it says in the motion versus what it says in the land use bylaw, I'm going to be requesting, if we get to that point, requesting that we take a brief motion to go into close to get some advice from officials pursuant to Section 29, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. It's just, it's difficult to deal with during the public hearing.
So we shouldn't do it. So we shouldn't deal with the height thing right now, is what you're saying? Ignore that for now?
I'm not saying to ignore it. I think, I anticipate that one of the remaining 4 individuals who have presentations will speak to it, but I think the spirit of the 10.5 was that would be the maximum height on the lot, because it says grade level, but that is just my layman's suggestion. So, next step.
Hi, my name is Helen Brown, and I think I'm in favor, but I would like to see an amendment or an addition to, so like, it's the height restriction is, I would like to see this added on to it. So I'm not sure if that puts me in favor or against.
So, technically, the height restriction piece would be dealt with separately by council through the, likely
Yeah.
tonight. So, being in favor of the bylaw, you can, I guess, say subject to the height restrictions discussed. Is that correct
Yep,
framing?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, good evening, and thank you for allowing us time to speak in regard to this matter. It's much appreciated. My name is Helen Brown, and I live at 62 Greenwood Court Southwest. I am directly adjacent to 1064 First Street Southwest. I have to make notes, and I'm a little bit nervous, so my apologies. I'm here to share mine and my husband's concerns with the proposed land use bylaw amendment. It's unfortunate that with the way that this land development has been previously handled, it has left us with a strong lack of trust for the city and the city planning department. We are asking the current council to uphold the last council's recommendation and place strict height sanctions on the land parcel and the land sales package for 1064 First Street Southwest. That being that the property is restricted to a maximum of 10.5 meters or 2 stories and managed through the conditions of a purchase and sales agreement between the city and potential purchaser. Our reasons for the height restrictions include shadowing and privacy. If you're familiar with this parcel of land, you'll be aware of the fact that it sits very much above the grade in relation to the existing homes located below it. Driving down Greenwood Court and looking back, you're able to clearly see the grade difference, and I think it was mentioned it's like 10 to 12 feet. Like there's a substantial grade difference here. City Planning conducted and shared an inaccurate shadowing report. They noted shadowing restriction for spring, summer, and fall, but what was interesting is they neglected to include winter. Winter, when the community would be most affected by shadowing due to the elevation of the property and being located on the south side of the neighborhood. The report was completed as if the property was level to the existing neighborhood and not accounting for the grade difference, and they used a flat roof build as opposed to the norm of a peaked roof. During winter months, there would be an impact of over 70% loss of sunlight due to shadowing over a 4-month period of time from mid-October to March. Our home was one of the ones most affected by the shadowing. I personally spoke to 3 members of the planning department, and I was told, and I quote, "Sacrifices need to be made for the betterment of the community." My home, enjoyment of my home is okay to be sacrificed for the betterment of the community. I found that interesting. It was a harsh statement coming from a city planner who's in charge of the betterment of the city. Shadowing will affect the cost of heating in our home or homes, especially during winter months. Opportunity or efficiency of adding of green energy options that can have and it also can have a huge effect on one's mental health. The height of the building, along with the grade difference, can and will have a privacy impact on the surrounding homes as well. A taller build will allow full view into our yards and homes. I understand that we live in the city, privacy is not guaranteed, and that's part of living here. However, we should be allowed to be in our basement on our treadmills and be able to have our blinds open and not have people looking directly into our homes. In closing, we're asking that the council upholds recommendations for previous council and place strict height restrictions on any proposed building project on 1064 First Street Southwest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Varga?
Yes, through the chair. When was that shadowing survey done, or when was it done? What year, or?
It was done, so we're 2 years ago, it would have been done 2 years ago. It would have been probably done in the spring. It was something that was presented. We were given a copy of it when we prepared our appeal.
So the city actually did the study?
Yes, they did.
The city
Yeah.
did the study?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
we could have some
But
information
it
on that.
was interesting, and I'll make note of this, is they didn't make note of winter. And that's when we're most affected. Like, we literally would lose over 70% of our sunshine.
Okay, if I might ask, can I ask planning to make a statement on that? Can I do that for clarification?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair to
Thanks,
Councillor
Brad.
Varga. Yeah. So there were 2 studies done. One was done by us and one was done by the developer at this time. I do have a copy of the one done by us. It did include all 4 seasons, and I'm more than happy to share that. Can't print it off here, but we do have it available if you want to see it done for the equinox and the solstices for this project, for this site, for the 4-story building. I can't recall. The software that we had was limited to how you could operate it. So we couldn't make a peaked roof, so we accommodated for that. We just made a giant square to the height that the elevation was for that building. So try to make it as accurate as we possibly could, just to give a rough idea on the impact that the shadow would have.
Sorry, and another question to you, did you come to some conclusions at that time about the shadowing, that it was okay? Or did you come to a decision on that?
Through the chair to Councillor Varga, there's always going to be impact with taller buildings.
Right.
Yes, there is going to be some impact on the closer properties. That's why we tried to push the building and work with the developer to push it as far forward as we could. They're also limited from the front with the high power voltage line in the front. So we tried to work within the site context of what we could. I don't want to dive too deep into the previous one, but these were considerations that we looked at.
Okay, and that was then and this is now, so it's not the same, really, because the concept is different now with the heights, so.
The concepts could vary greatly depending on what's proposed. Even in low-density residential, you're allowed a 3-story building in low-density residential with a closer setback. You're still going to get shadowing in every district that's out there, so.
Thank you. Councillor Hellman, can you?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I just had a question for you, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So you're okay with the 2-story, 10.5-meter limit? You're okay with that? You're not
Yes,
looking for
yeah.
something lower than that?
No, and we were fully aware that there would be development on there. I'm not opposed to development, and none of us are opposed to development on that property. It's the height. The height makes such a huge difference, and mostly because there's such an elevation from that. We're the first house. And so we're at the top of the court, and the elevation, like my grandkids, they can toboggan down there. That's the difference, right? So if we're talking, this 10 feet above a requirement, like it just makes a big difference, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Pfaff?
Not for you again, sorry. You guys bring up issues, and then I have to ask the administration. So I'm not sure if this is a question for Managing Director Bohan or for Randy, I don't know your last name, or for Randy Inland. Buckner, yes. Do we currently, so we had a developer interested in this property 2 years ago. They were gonna do this condo, and that's no longer the case. They're not interested. Do we currently have anyone interested in this property to do any kind of development?
Through the chair to Councillor Pfaff, we have had interested parties in this property that would be looking to do a potential concept that would be similar to the concept shown today within the land use bylaw presentation that was completed.
They'd be interested in all, so it's just one, it's not separate lots right now, okay.
It is all one, I think it's just over an acre in one parcel.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Hale.
Let me write my name. Also, can I say before we start the time that I know where the 10.5 came from? September 2nd meeting when this was brought up, the second time this was brought up, no one from planning or development was at the meeting. Managing Director Bohan was not at the meeting. Councillors were trying to figure out what 2 stories was. And one of them said, I think around 10.5 meters. That's where it came from, and somehow it stuck. Okay. I know some of this has already been addressed, but I'm just going to read it how I have it, otherwise it'll throw me off, okay? So bear with me. If you've heard it before, I apologize, okay? Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Brock Hale, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Harlow neighborhood. I'm also in favor with certain restrictions as well. First, I want to say that our neighborhood is genuinely pleased to finally be here. This issue has been ongoing for over 2 years, and while it has taken a long time to reach this point, we appreciate the chance to finally get to speak to council today, our first time. We want to be very clear at the outset, we are not opposed to developments on this site. In fact, we support thoughtful, moderate density that fits with the character of our neighborhood. What we're asking for is clarity, consistency, and accountability, particularly when it comes to height restrictions and neighborhood involvement. Over the past several months, this concern that we are dealing with today was presented in several different ways that raised some serious concerns. On July 7th, the proposal clearly stated that the development would be limited to 2 stories or 10.5 meters, whichever was less. In September, the whichever less was dropped. Now in the current recommendation, there is nothing of any height. Though sometimes mentioned it could be agreed in a sales agreement, which is worrisome to me. At the MPC meeting in December, this issue was also raised directly, and the planning staff at the time stated that the height restriction would still in effect, yet somehow it has disappeared from the formal recommendation. So respectfully, we are asking, what happened to the whichever is less, what happened to the height restriction, and where is it actually written, and who enforces a sales agreement height restriction? And if it's not in the bylaw, what guarantees the residents truly have that it will be enforced? These are not minor technicalities. The height directly affects privacy, sunlight, traffic, and the overall feel of our neighborhood. Without clear, enforceable limits, trust is eroded. We also have questions about the 10.5 figures itself, but I'll skip that paragraph because we've talked about it a lot. We also noticed the comparisons in the agenda package between Harlow and neighborhoods like Vista and Ranchlands. Respectfully, those comparisons feel misleading. Harlow was built in the very different era, in the 70s, under different planning philosophies. Density alone does not tell the full story of compatibility. Regarding the concept drawings shown in the agenda, if developers are already interested, we believe transparency is essential. In the past, the neighborhood was kept in the dark for far too long, which created unnecessary conflict for everyone involved. Strong communities are built through bottom-up engagement, not surprises. There is also a practical zoning concern. Medium density zoning includes minimum density requirements. For this site, that means at least 9 units. But what if a developer wanted to build 4 homes? Or what if they wanted to build 4 duplexes, which would be 8 units, something that may fit the neighborhood better? Is there flexibility for an up to and including medium density, rather than locking in minimums that may not be as appropriate? Finally, I also want to address this history. This lot was rezoned to mixed use in 2013 without any neighborhood awareness. We have since seen that this zoning does not work well for this site. If the goal today is truly moderate, appropriate development, then why not rezone the property to match the surrounding neighborhood, which is predominantly single family? In the agenda package, we see all sorts of arguments for why this medium density rezoning is best for the neighborhood. It aligns with the municipal development plan. It represents moderate intensification. It's the highest and best use of the land. If this is true now, why were we so strongly opposed when we raised these same points a year and a half ago? Instead, we were met with unreturned phone calls, ignored emails, denied meetings, stop orders, and even threatened fines. And when errors were acknowledged by planning and development decisions, who should bear the cost of those errors? Should the residents? Because so far it has been the residents, and at a very steep cost, to say the least. I also want to mention that I see in the agenda package at the very last page, where it's the city clerk notification report, it says a notification letter related to the subject development permit application was mailed to 90 adjacent abutting properties owners on December 16th. No one that we have spoken to in the neighborhood received any development permit application notice. In closing, we are not here to obstruct progress. We are here to ask for clear rules, enforceable height limits, transparency, and meaningful neighborhood involvement. 5 minutes is not enough to resolve all of this, but it is enough to ask council to slow down, be precise, and ensure nothing important is forgotten. Thank you for your time and consideration. I would welcome any and all opportunities to continue this conversation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Varga?
Sorry, I love development, so this is a topic that I love to talk about because
Good,
it's
let's
great
talk.
for our city to have development, right? So, and I'm glad that you're on page for moving it forward and you're on the page to have it happen. And I think that as us council, we're very open to things that are happening in the community, and we want things to happen in the community. So any suggestions you might have, or I think most of it's been explained now, right?
I think finally we are able to actually talk to council, which is
Right.
brilliant, an idea. But if we had a perfect world, we would love single family. I feel like that matches and fits with a single family neighborhood. But we understand that that may not be what the city or what planning and development is fighting for. So if I had my choice, that would be what I'm fighting for. That being said, I'm also willing to understand and listen to other sides of it.
Well, I'm glad you're open to different ways of doing things, right? We are looking for density, and we are looking for more people to live in different areas and different places and in different concepts, so.
I will say, though, we have a big unit going up by like Taco Time and Dollar Store. We have a big unit going up by the Baseball Diamond. I'm not sure how much more medium density we need. There's a lot happening right now. We have another one going up in Ranchlands. So like there's 3 big medium density projects that I can list off the top of my head. I don't know, and that would equal, I don't know, my guess would be over 100 units. I don't know if we have 100 single-family homes being built. I think per year we have several.
It's a little more than that, but we're
Sure.
always looking for easier ways for people to live in places, right?
Sure.
Rather than being strapped by having a house that they can't afford, right? So we're always looking for those options. So
Yeah.
I thank you for your comments and for everything you've said, and
Yeah.
duly noted.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. I don't see any more questions, but are you comfortable saying
Yes.
you signed your email as the,
Oh, the neighborhood association president, yeah.
yes.
It made me sound more authoritative.
I did just want to ask though, is there an official neighborhood
Yeah,
association?
yeah, the city was promoting and encouraging
Yes.
neighborhood associations, and so I went and we made a neighborhood association, and we've gotten the grant and had barbecues, and it's awesome. Yes.
I want to just let you know how much I appreciate that. And definitely want to work towards ways of better engaging with the neighborhood associations, because it's an excellent avenue to do consulting and have that feedback coming in. So thank you very much for taking the time to reach out to the city and do that.
And maybe on that thread, if you don't mind, I will say that since the previous development fiasco and now, there was also that park and construction situation. And that one I felt like was navigated wonderfully by the city.
Thank you.
And it was great. We helped deliver flyers of notices. We worked with the city. We worked with Parks and Recs, and it was great. And I was like, it felt like how it should be. The previous situation did not, and I hope this situation can be again. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I believe we have 2 more presentations in support of the bylaw. Come on down. While you're writing your name, I'm just going to ask the clerk to provide the notification report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 4862 to amend the land use bylaw by rezoning the vacant parcel located at 1064 First Street Southwest from mixed use to medium density district. Bylaw 4862 received first reading December 15th, 2025. A notification letter was sent to adjacent landowners on December 16th. Public notice of the subject bylaw was published in the Medicine Hat News on December 20th and 27th. No written submissions were received by the deadline. However, 10 submissions were received by 1:30 today and have been printed off and presented to council.
Thank you.
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. My name is Jane Hale, and I appreciate you reading that because myself and Helen Brown couldn't be more adjacent to the lot, and neither one of us received a letter, which seems odd to me. Anyway, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As it's been mentioned several times, it's our first time to ever talk to council. We've sent emails, tried to plan meetings. Our previous council had a couple people who were great at responding to an email, which to me should not be a hard thing. But we did have a couple that did, and I would appreciate, and I have appreciated those of you who have, again this time. Thank you. Throughout this period over the past couple years, our residents have made repeated good faith efforts to engage with the city. Emails went unanswered, phone calls were not returned, we were denied access to senior staff in planning and development. Decisions affecting our neighborhood continued to move forward while the residents were left without information, clarity, or a meaningful voice. When public feedback was requested through a QR code regarding the proposal of the 2 4-story buildings, the response could not have been clearer. We had several hundred people respond, 97% of which were strongly against. And a couple days later, the project was approved. What was the point of having a QR code and asking for our input? We found that to be very frustrating. Was it meant to help in decisions, or is it merely procedural? That is something I think needs to be looked at. Residents were then told not to worry. We had the chance to appeal, so we did. Our neighborhood organized constructively and professionally. We presented well-researched information on traffic density, flooding, parking, many other things. We also demonstrated how the proposal directly conflicted with Strong Towns principles, a program which the city had adopted and funded. Despite the strength of our work, our outcome felt predetermined. The appeal was not a genuine review, it was a formality. After that, I requested personally to speak to council and was denied, which is another thing I hope you will look at. At that time, a request went to administration. They denied me. Council was never aware that I wanted to speak to them. And I think that is something that needs to be looked at. So at that point, we had no other avenues. We decided to speak directly with the developer, who was great. We had a respectful, practical, and solution-oriented conversation. Ultimately, residents paid for his permits and studies so that the developer would withdraw his project. Let me be very clear. I don't think it is right in any sense that we, as residents, should have to pay for the mistakes that were so clearly made. We are grateful to former council members and the previous city manager who were willing to listen. Former city manager and one of the managing directors, who is present tonight, met with us and both agreed that this situation had been handled poorly, that they could have and should have done better. But who paid for it? We did. We have asked what we would want for this lot. Ideally, it would be single-family zoning. However, we recognize the need for compromise and are not unfair. We agreed that multifamily would be reasonable as long as there are restrictions. I want to reiterate Brock's comment at the meeting where 10.5 was thrown out. It seems like a silly number to be going with when it really had no purpose and it came from nowhere. A height restriction is not optional. Multifamily zoning allows for up to 4 stories, and we have already experienced how community concern can be overridden. Any height restriction must be clearly defined, legally binding, and embedded in zoning or bylaw. A condition in a sales contract is not a guarantee, and we require certainty, not just assurance. We are not opposed to growth in our city. We love our city. My husband and I have raised 6 children here, 5 of which have returned after getting their education and are raising their own families here. And if you hear a couple more Hale names, it's because 3 of our 6 children actually live in the Harlow neighborhood too. So we're not just recruiting them from everywhere to speak. They're actually a part of this too. So tonight we ask that you implement a clear, enforceable height restriction for this lot to ensure it is embedded in policy and commit to a planning process that genuinely respects public engagement. This is an opportunity to restore trust, to demonstrate accountability, and to show residents that our voices matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Hale? Mrs. Hale, sorry. No, I think we have another Hale coming up right now.
Probably. We have a few.
Oh, okay. So last call for anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak in support. Are there any individuals online? No? Okay, so now anyone in opposition to the development, please come down to the podium, sign in, and state your name.
Oops. I hope just before you start the clock, I've got some answers to some questions from previous in here. There, again, that 2.5, you should have seen, I was at that meeting. I think I missed 4 council meetings last year. And in that meeting, our council, our mayor struggled with this height thing, like maybe way more than we are now. And there were no representatives from planning and developing. And they said, we got to do something. We set aside this, and there's nobody here to tell us what to do. So somebody came up with, well, we got to have something to put on paper, so that's where the 10.5 came from. That sounded good, so they did it. Shadowing, what they brought up before, that block they're talking about that they used as shadowing, on the back side of that, on the lot, it's 5.5 stories high that they proposed, and they used 4 stories from the front. But it was 5.5 stories in the back, and it was not a representation, even accurate, of what was going to be there. And that was brought up in our appeal also. It's just so challenging to try to answer some of these questions when you were there. And I've watched people present to council last year. And I'm nervous, I'm pure excited to be here. I'm passionate, I get excited, I get rattled. My wife doesn't necessarily agree with how I present or how I do, but I'm pleading for some that I can present properly and in the right way. I've watched this mic last year get avoided and avoided and avoided. We could not, the community could not talk to council. Please and thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this. A very frustrating experience in one of these council meetings was this was being talked about, this lot, and during it, one of our members, Mr. Popoff, out of frustration, came down from here, came down to speak and said, enough. This development has had more time and more effort put into it than any other development in Medicine Hat. He said, we need to do something. Well, when you take 0.9 acres, they said it was over an acre, it's 0.9 acres. Medicine Hat exists over 5,000 acres. This is a less than a 5,000th of our community that's created time and effort. Now, how did it get there? The community decided to push back against, whatever you want to call it, planning and development, administration, and it's been very challenging. And he came down and expressed that. And I'm hurt, yeah, anyway. A personal experience, where did I put it here? A frustration. And I'm doing this to council because you are council, you're citizens of Medicine Hat, just like I am. Last night, I came in from Edmonton around 11 o'clock. Last night, coming to Medicine Hat, what a great place. I'm home. It's wonderful. I've been here 22 years. It's great. You guys are all here too. What are we going to do best for Medicine Hat? What can we do? We have some challenges. What would you do if you received a year ago, let's say at work, a phone call from one of our city managers saying, Alan, I just want to give you a heads up. We're issuing a stop order on you for your sign on your fence. Do you know what a stop order is? I said, what is this? Well, we've had a public complaint about your sign. And I said, yeah, and it came from you guys because you're the only ones that are worried about my minuscule sign on my fence. It just says I oppose 4 stories on this lot. Our community does. And threatened me with a $10,000 fine if you don't take it down. So we went to the police, we went to bylaw, we went to legal and said, what's wrong with this? He said, well, it's not enforceable. There's nothing wrong with that sign. Distrust has become a huge issue during this ordeal in the last 2.5 years with our community. Planning and Development's had over 3 years to paint a beautiful picture of what this should be and what we should have in this, and kept, as my wife said, us out of it. And again, I'm passionate about this. We have been, I don't even know how to put it sometimes. I don't know how to put it in words because I'm not an orator. I'm a hearing aid guy. And thank you for your patience when I asked for him to speak up, because people with hearing aids can't hear that very well and hear it all. Please work with us as neighbors. Listen to what we have to say. We're just like you were a year ago. We weren't part of council. Now you are. And anyway, sorry about venting a little bit, but it is what comes from a citizen that loves to live here just as much as you do. And when we get, and I'm up one too, in the rumor mill during all of this, my wife and I were accused of bullying. And I'm just thinking, what a coin phrase. And for anybody who was part of that, if that really did happen, supposedly it did. And it was supposedly came from city. And I'm thinking, gee, what a coin word to use in our society today, to put somebody down. Please work with us, continue to work as a council to work with the citizens. Again, I'm going to reiterate a little dimension because I looked it up in the middle of the night. 38 meters by 96 meters is what we're talking about. That's it. And it has taken more effort and time to try to push back on that. I'm going to call it overzealous planning and development, because I'm trying to be nice about it, because sometimes it is hard to be nice in some of these circumstances. Any questions? I'm asking for questions because, I mean, this 5 minutes, I still have a few minutes, isn't what do you call it, seconds, isn't justified. They get 10 minutes, they get all the time in the world to present, and we get 5. It's really challenging. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize if this wasn't known, but if you register as a group, you also get 10 minutes as a group. So in the future, you can register as, like, for the association, and then you would get 10 minutes, but
Rats.
I feel like you guys all kind of together got more than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and
we did well.
I would like to just, I don't have a question, but I think communication has come up a number of times, or lack thereof, lack of access, and I think I can speak for council because we've had many discussions about, wanting to really work to improve that. And I wanted to give Managing Director Bohan also an opportunity because that's something I think that, you know, he has also commented on and, you know, that we need to do better. I know that I'm told that 90 letters went out, so I'm not sure what happened to Ms. Brown and Miss, your letter, so none of you. Okay, so that's something maybe we need to investigate. But Managing Director Bohan?
I mean, I can, you know, Your Worship, we're always trying to find ways to improve service to the community. We are a little bit hamstrung by the Municipal Government Act, by our existing plans and bylaws, but we are always trying. I think it may come as a surprise, but even as recently as 3 years ago, we did not we basically met the letter of the law in the MGA, which says for public hearings and for rezonings, we make 2 consecutive weeks of notice in the local paper. We've taken that since 2023, and now we post large format signs on sites that are contemplating changes to zoning or changes to use. So we're trying. It can be a challenge, but we're always open to finding new ways to try and stay within the letter of the law, but also to ensure that we're doing the right thing for the community and our applicants. That's the other side of the equation, because we do get applicants and interested parties in acquiring land, whether it's city-owned or if it's privately owned land. So we have to be extremely cautious in terms of providing a fair and legal approach to how and what we release. So it is a balance, but we are committed to doing better.
Thank you. And I will say it is a difficult situation also for planning, because they operate under these broad, like the municipal planning, MDP, municipal development plan, and the land use bylaw. And I think maybe, if I'm hearing things correctly, the gap is connecting that with the community earlier and in a more open and receptive way. But certainly I think, you know, they're doing their job, and we need to, you know, find ways to bridge that gap. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very confused about these 90 letters and where they actually went, but like other organizations, it is a struggle now to kind of find out what the best way to communicate so that everybody knows what's going on. Is it, you know, social media, newspaper, like everybody's kind of, no one goes all to the same source, especially if you don't know that you should be looking at the announcements in the paper because you don't know that there's a development. So I think the signs are helpful, but certainly I appreciate you taking the time to outline your concerns and finding ways to perhaps use this as a case study to ensure that we're improving our processes. Councillor Varga.
Through the record, do we have to accept these letters as being late? Do we have to make a motion to accept these?
That would happen after the public hearing is
After the public hearing,
closed?
or when?
After the public hearing.
Okay, so.
Is it really? That's what we've done, but it does seem a bit odd. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Mohammed.
Through the chair, I just want to say I really appreciate the level of engagement from your community. It's something to commend, and I also wanted to commend about, you know, just having the neighborhood association helps really to hear the voice of that community. I want to echo what Mayor Clark says. I think that today is a new day in Medicine Hat. It's not, I know that some of the challenges that has happened have passed with communication. So we're hoping that this council would continue to improve communication, which is something that we talked about. So really appreciate your community. Thank you.
Thank you. And in my opposition, I forgot to point that out. I'm all for R1 like this was originally planned and the set aside, and somewhere when it got stretched and stretched and stretched, I was here at the council meeting when on Riverside, when they said, we'd like to make a change, tear that school down and zone that R1 like the rest of the community, like it's appropriately, so it fits in. What's wrong with Harlow? Having a zone that it's R1 that fits in the rest of the community. Anyway, thank you for that.
Councillor Hellman, no, you're good. Okay.
Okay, but thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Bohan. Thank you, Mayor, for expressing those because we are hopeful and there's a lot of hope out there and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to ask if there's, for any other person who wants to speak against the bylaw.
Can I ask a question or two for clarification? I left a minute on the timer.
Brother.
You guys remember?
I am going to allow the question.
Ashley Large, my apologies. Is there a reason we cannot put the height restriction in the bylaw? I understand that medium density has a specification behind it, but why do we have to deal with this on a sales in another matter? Or could we not just put that as part of the bylaw?
Such a great question, and that may be a topic of a closed session as business arising.
Okay, so you can, I guess my
don't.
question is, there's no reason you cannot, but for some reason someone has chosen not to approach it this way.
We are going to get some advice
Mayor Clark.
from officials on that.
I did have some conversations with Managing Director Bohan on that today. Obviously, I just want to chat with you guys beforehand, but we will have an answer for that, Ashley. I don't think it's something willy-nilly or anything like that. I think there's very specific reasons. We'll get into it because we've been asking that same question. So we will absolutely answer that question tonight. Okay.
Thank you. That's what I was assuming, is that there was something structurally to deal with that.
Thank you.
I don't have another question. Well, I guess I do have one more question. If it's been reported to you that 90 letters have gone out, and our community is telling you we've received none of them, should there be some review of why, how, and who was responsible? Because again, in 2013, the first change of this from it was R1 to mixed development. Again, 2013, bad timing. I think some exceptions should be made. Of course, that doesn't affect any of you folks here, but we have several residents that lived there in 2013 and also did not receive notifications
That
at
sounds,
that time.
that sounds reasonable, Mr. Large, and I think that I would also like an answer to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for hearing me twice.
Go ahead, Caleb. You are in opposition.
Yes.
Hello, Madam Mayor, members of council. You know my deal. I'm in favor of more. What we had on the table was two buildings with 4-story units. What we saw is a proposal that would add about 15 new units, right? An apartment building would have added upwards of what, 60? That's more people, more taxpayers, greater square footage. 48? 48 people. I'm of the opinion more is better. And because it's just math. Even if we had 100% housing in Medicine Hat, we would need 3 to 4% vacancy just so people could move, just so that we could move around and have some pressure on the market, get closer to where we work and eat and where we want to live. And that's why I want to speak to you guys, Ellen, the assorted Hales. My name is Caleb Borge. I live on Aish. And because I only make $1,800 a month, the bank demands that I have a 15% down payment before I afford anything. Nobody is going to build what I need to live in by choice until we have enough space for everybody. 100 units aren't enough, Brock. We need 1,000. We need a substantial increase. You guys were being ordered to sacrifice for people like me. And that was the mistake.
I'm going to make a point of order here. You're addressing council. Please continue to address council.
Yes, they were luxury condos because that's what they can get away with right now. once that market is full, to give those guys work, they're going to build what I can afford eventually. Or if they can't, it's going to become secondhand. It's going to be available in the rental market. It's going to apply market pressure. At some point, it becomes something that I and people in my position can have, right? Yes, secondhand, thirdhand, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years down the line. And from the city budget perspective, more people owning more units is more property tax. The mistake here is that this community was organized, and that is brilliant. Brock, you got nearly 3,000 votes, right?
Caleb.
Sorry, I
address
can't help myself.
council,
I can't help
please.
myself. I'm grandstanding, and I can't help myself because that community was organized in opposition to something. The way the city handled it created NIMBYs, when right now they show up as YIMBYs to a different project, right? They don't want people 4 stories up looking in their backyard. They want neighbors to shake hands with. And I get that. I want to be them, and I want as many new units in this place as possible. I want the building we lost, but I don't have the ability to make that happen. And the way the city went about it, these guys spent an obscene amount of money pulling permits, money that could have given me a down payment to be in a home by now. The city needs to build what it can, where it can, as much as it can, so that as many people can have homes, who want to have homes, as can happen. So while I'm against this bylaw because I want what wasn't there, I admit defeat. Let's build what we can, please.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from council to administration, the applicant? All right. I hereby declare this public hearing closed at 8:17 p.m. And I would like to request a motion to go into close to receive advice on officials regarding the business arising from the hearing for bylaw 4862 on the basis of section 29 of the AITIA.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and we'll vote. All right, we will adjourn to L1 and hopefully return in short order. Thank you. All right. We will come back to order. Council's already made and passed the motion to go back into open. And next up is business arising from the hearing for bylaw 4862. And we just have some a rise and report from the closed session. So I'm gonna turn it over to City Solicitor Bullock.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just a few comments about the matter before you tonight. So the decision of council on September 2nd of 2025, at that meeting, council approved that for this property that there would be the height of the development is restricted to the lesser of 10.5 meters or 2 stories. So that's a decision that's been made already by council. It's unnecessary for council to vote on that already. It's been decided. And it would be managed through the real estate purchase contract as a condition of the contract. The purchaser would be required to apply for a development permit that includes those height restrictions. And a failure to comply with that would cancel that real estate contract. It wouldn't proceed because the condition wouldn't be satisfied. And it wouldn't be appropriate to include that type of a height restriction in a rezoning bylaw. The purpose of a rezoning bylaw is to regulate land use. And the height restrictions is more of a construction detail that's properly managed through the development permit stage and or the real estate purchase contract, a combination of the two. So thank you.
So in order to make the rezoning through a bylaw, we would have to create an entirely new zone within the land use bylaw specifically for this property, which is unusual. So we're going to rely on the September 2nd, 2025 motion made by council to restrict the height of the development. And with that, I will accept a motion regarding business arising. What is your motion?
I think that, so you're looking for the motion to,
Second reading.
at second reading?
Yeah.
And that's coming from the department of which I'm vice chair. Councillor Clugston is the chair, and he's not with us this evening.
Thank you, Sif is the chair. Development and infrastructure.
Oh, we're in development and infrastructure. I thought we were in energy and land. You're right, development and infrastructure. Sorry.
All right, I make a motion that council gives the second reading of bylaw 4862.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cox seconds it. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Cox?
Yes, I appreciate hearing from all of the interested parties this evening. I'm satisfied that most of those people were speaking in favor. They just wanted to make sure that the height restriction is going to be applied. And I'm satisfied that that has already been taken care of, and we will see to it through our land department that any sale of this property honors the motion of council that said, that's already been passed. So that part to me is satisfied. I would briefly comment on the suggestion that this should be single-family housing. Quite frankly, there is no land use district currently within the city of Medicine Hat that allows only single-family. The lowest density, the lowest density is low density, and duplexes are permitted uses. So you can't zone this R1. R1 is a thing of the past as it stands currently. I do support this. I think, do we call this? ML, or MD, medium density. I want to go back to those old designations as well. Medium density is an appropriate use here. I think access to those properties off of First Street is going to be somewhat limited because that is a fairly busy street, and access will be mostly from the rear. But in any event, I support this bylaw amendment.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Cox. I do appreciate the community coming out. I feel what I heard most was we're not in opposition of this. I feel like, but we want clear assurances that the height restriction is adhered to, and I can appreciate that. And also, I know there was a lot of energy and passion there, but I guess if I put myself in your shoes over the last couple of years, you know, this is where you can come and express some of those feelings, and so I thought you guys did that well, and I appreciate that. I was feeling, you know, I get frustrated a little bit about some of the feedback on not being heard. Not frustrated that you said it, but just frustrated that happened. Obviously, we can't control what happened in the past. We can only control what's happening now. So, yeah, I appreciate your perspective. This is where you live. This is important. You care about this. And I also so completely understand. And I think this is a reasonable middle ground where it's a unique property. We're saying medium density because of the buildings that we want on there, but the height in medium density is too high. It's 12 meters, and so we want to reduce that. And so I think we're meeting a good middle ground. So just want to say I appreciate that, but we also have to take into consideration developers. We had another conversation in a different permitting conversation about how we want to be careful not to over-regulate developers. We just want to be careful we don't want to be pushing developers away. Don't think we're doing that in this case. I think you guys are being reasonable, so appreciate the time.
All right, seeing no further speakers, we will vote on the motion for second reading. That's unanimous. Would anyone like to make a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 4862?
Sure. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4862 to rezone 1064 First Street Southwest.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Reinish. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Cox.
I just wanted to comment, there have been a couple of things that came up in this whole process. One of them that concerns me, and concerns all of us, is this notification that you say you didn't get. Everybody that's present says they didn't get. Now, I'm assuming we're talking about the notice of tonight's hearing, and that's the notification that was sent, right?
No, the notice of the application.
The original application?
No, for changing the zoning. But point taken, we want to look into that and see.
The notice of this bylaw public hearing tonight? No?
No, pursuant to, Managing Director Bohan.
Sadly, Your Worship, I'm going to defer to the clerk on that.
Go ahead.
So the notification was for the public hearing to do the rezoning?
The 90 letters.
It says differently here.
Okay.
It says,
Kate, I'm really sorry. I want to address this issue. Now is not the time, but perhaps we could add this to the D&I committee outstanding items list to kind of dig down and see what the heck happened with those letters.
I just wanted to make sure we understood which letters we're talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about the letters that gave notice to adjacent property owners about tonight's public hearing.
Okay, so I'm gonna suggest that D&I can follow up with Mr. Hale or one of the association members and we will get to the bottom of that at that time.
Thank you.
All right, so third and final reading, and Councillor Varga, did you have a motion that you wanted to make? No? Okay.
Councillor Mohammed, and then
All right, so
just have to
we will vote on third and final reading. And that's unanimous. Managing Director Bohan, I trust that you will follow up on the letter issue as discussed. Thank you. No, there will be an opportunity to talk with Managing Director Bohan at a later time, but no question, no public input is available outside of the public hearing. My apologies. Next up is 9.2, Bylaw 4866 to rezone 5366, 5368, 5371, 5373, and 5377, 5379, Southland Drive Southeast. So same rules as before. I'm going to call the public hearing to order at 8:46 p.m. And we will have an introduction from Mr. Genge. Oh. Okay. I'm just waiting for the presentation. It's not up on the screen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council, I'll be making the presentation for this land use bylaw amendment application. I have another colleague, Justin Vander Merwe, is also here to support. New Tab Homes has made an application to rezone 3 adjacent lots in Southlands Phase 6. Land use bylaw amendments must be referred to council for decision. Southlands Phase 6 is the last phase of development in Southlands. This application proposes to rezone the parcels shown on the screen highlighted in red from low density to medium density residential. The application has been made to facilitate the construction of semi-detached dwellings with basement suites over each of the 3 parcels. This is a popular 4-unit built form which improves housing affordability by providing rental income to owners. The low-density district has a density cap of 2 dwellings per parcel. A rezoning to medium density is required to allow for the basement suites within the semi-detached houses. Southlands is a primarily low-density suburban residential neighborhood. Development began over 2 decades ago and has occurred in 6 phases. The statutory plans for the Southlands neighborhood have undergone a number of amendments which did not result in substantial changes to density or land use. In 2004, 2007, and 2011, Council approved minor adjustments to the overall plan for the community. The Southlands community is near full build-out. When receiving rezoning applications over neighborhoods that have area structure plans in place, it's important to confirm that the proposed rezonings will not result in a significant departure from the density targets within the plans. This table compares the number of residential units per built form which were envisioned for Phase 6 with the current number of units that have been developed. The number of vacant lots remaining and the likely number of units or potential number of units to be built on these lots is also shown. This is a snapshot of the current built-out status of Phase 6. The 3 lots grouped together and highlighted in blue on the right-hand side of the slide are the subject of this application. The plans for Phase 6 projected a total of 18.7 hectares of residential land to be developed with a total of between 485 and 517 units for an overall density ranging from 22 to 27 units per hectare. Currently, 18 hectares of land within Phase 6 has been developed with a total of 407 units for an overall density of 22.6 units per hectare. Within the planning documents, what we have is a projected density of between 22 and 22 units per hectare, and we have a current density of 22.6 units per hectare. So a density which is on the low end of what the planning documents have projected. This confirms consistency between the projected density within the relevant planning documents and the current density, and thus confirms that the development of Phase 6 has followed the adopted area structure plan and conceptual schemes. Again, for additional context, this slide shows some typical suburban densities in Medicine Hat. The next 2 slides show parking spots for this property. Sorry, this slide, just this slide. The corner lot on Southlands Drive accommodates 12 parking spots. Right. The 2 properties side by side on Southlands Drive provide a total of 17 parking spots. And this slide shows the parking assessment in table form. Parking stalls per dwelling for each property are shown on the far right column. The table makes a distinction between on-street and off-street parking. And we must remember that on-street parking is not assigned to dwellings. However, its availability is a reasonable consideration. As we show some images of the properties, we want to emphasize some key points in terms of the planning for Southlands Phase 6, the current build-out and the current build-out status. Council can be confident that everything is in order. Southlands Phase 6 has been developed in a manner that is consistent with the adopted plans, and a decision to approve the proposed rezonings will not result in a shift away from the adopted plans in terms of density and land use. In addition, consistency with the ASB also confirms consistency with the accompanying functional servicing report, a series of engineering reports that outlines utility and servicing capacity in terms of roadway design, traffic and on-street parking, as well as water, sewer, electric, and gas utilities. Parking is typically assessed at development permit application. We've included in this presentation a parking assessment to demonstrate a good amount of parking availability when looking forward to what we can anticipate to be developed if this application is approved. This concludes the presentation. The formal request for decision on bylaw 4866 is shown on this slide. Please note that on December 3rd, the Municipal Planning Commission recommended that City Council approve this application. This is not a development permit application. However, approval will allow for the development of 2 basement suites within the semi-detached duplex currently under construction located at 5633 and 5368 Southlands Drive Southeast for a total of 4 units, and semi-detached duplexes with basement suites at 5371, 5373, and 5377, 5379 Southlands Drive Southeast for a total of 8 units.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ganj? Councillor Varga.
Yes, I have a few. In the letters that we received, sorry, they might be brought up later in the process here, but some concerns were, will our infrastructure be sufficient for this change?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Varga, yes.
Okay. Is there enough parking allotted for this change? What's our minimum parking allotment for this? So are we over, or are we right on par, or are we over that parking for these units? It seems like a lot of parking for these 2 units, so.
So the available parking, including on-street and off-street, is what I had presented.
Yeah.
In terms of our current approach to parking, we do not have numeric standards. We look at everything on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. I didn't know how you did that, so, okay, thank you. And one other one, do we have any other ones in the area like this that have been done already?
Your Worship, to Councillor Varga, you can see those on some of the slides where you can see the different,
okay.
They're even broken out into different built forms on the current status slide. There's the zoning slide that you can see the different land use districts within 6C. So you have numerous multifamily dwelling types within 6C.
But do they have basement suites?
Yes, some of them do.
Okay. I guess that's the 3 questions I wanted to ask of you, so thank you very much.
Councillor Hellman.
Yeah, thank you. I think you partly answered my question there. I was just going to ask where the closest medium-density lots were to these locations, and it looks like they're 4 or 5 down the street. Is that accurate?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Hellman, the closest medium-density zone is across the street in the large single-site development, behind Home Depot.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no further questions, is the applicant here? Okay. And you may come up to the podium and state your name, and you'll have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you, through Mayor Clark. My name is Brian Monroe. I've been involved in development in the city of Medicine Hat area for, I'm going to say, at least 45 years, and learned a lot through those years. We did consult with planning over this, and duplex building with the secondary suites, we had to go to medium density from low density. And the developer, they just want to provide these extra suites for maybe an elder family member and maybe subsidize for a mortgage. And Jim, he explained everything very well. There's plenty of parking. There's on-street, but there's more than enough off-street parking off the lane. The developers constructed most of the duplexes on one side of the street already, and that's what is going to be built. It's just with the secondary suite. That's why we're here. I do understand that this application may be part of the revisions of a new land use bylaw coming to you people in the spring. However, they have a substantial amount of money out on property and wish to continue developing. If there's any questions, I want to keep this short. Last one went a little long.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Monroe? Councillor Reinish?
How you doing?
Fine.
You're talking into the light, talking to the microphone, which is the next one over.
I have a booming voice sometimes. Had to stand back.
We saw in the presentation that there's up to potential for 17 parking spaces. Is there ever going to be a need to use 17 parking spaces?
No.
Okay.
No, I have units similar to these across the street from where I live in Ranchlands. And no, you won't need to use that many parking spots.
Councillor Varga?
Just a question to the developer. I guess he can or doesn't have to do this. If he gets a sale of the house, he doesn't have to build the basement suite, right? But is it going to go forward 100% that he's going to do this with all these units?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, and they will be subdivided into freehold titles for sale, like probably within this week.
Thank
We'll apply
you.
for subdivision as well, so.
Just another comment. Can you explain a little bit about the concept of this and why people are doing this now with our new builds?
Well, it is to provide a suite to a family member, to keep them close, but they're still able to look after themselves, but they're right there. Or subsidize your mortgage with a rental unit underneath to make it affordable for somebody that, you know, might be borderline. They've got that income. They can move ahead.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other speakers at this time. Mr. Monroe, you can take your seat, but don't go too far. There may be other questions. At this time, I am going to ask if there's anyone in the gallery who wishes to speak in support of Bylaw 4866. Please come down to the podium, state your name, first and last name, and sign in first. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask the clerk for the notification report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 4866 to amend Bylaw 4168 for the rezoning of a parcel at 308, 310 Somerside. I've got that right.
Southlands Drive.
Southlands Drive.
Is this Bylaw 4866? It's just one off. That's right, that one.
That one. Perfect, thank you. Bylaw 4868 received first reading on December 15th, 2025. It's wrong. A public notice of the subject bylaw was published in the Medicine Hat News on December 20th and Saturday, December 27th. 5 written submissions were received in opposition to the development.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The paperwork here might have been messed up a little bit. The previous speakers filled up nearly the entire line, so I went down to the next one without properly reading that it was the next heading. And Mr. Rhea may have actually then gone down one further to the next one. So
You know what? I think
that
if you
kinda
just
night.
put your name on the sheet, we're happy.
All right. Hello again. They all left, so I'm less impassioned too. In accordance with my philosophy of more is better, there's the issue of parking does come up a lot. And 17 parking spaces seems like a lot. I'm not sure whether these technically count as parking spaces on private property. It sounds like they're public spaces for the whole city, which is a massive opportunity because not everybody has, wants, or needs a car. And so if this increases the overall amount of parking, other developments may be able to leverage some of that parking space in later time to increase density or with new projects, and we can factor that into the wider parking for the area. So I am in favor of this development with that regard. Those of you who are a bit more long-time serving also know that I have a long-time repeated question that I didn't hear answered tonight. Where is the closest grocery store and where is the closest bus stop?
Thank you. Do we have that information readily available, Mr. Genge?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Worship. Within the report, we typically provide that information. Southlands is serviced by Transit Route 56, Route 61, and the main transfer point located near the intersection of Strachan Bay Southeast and Dunmore Road Southeast. The closest grocery store, I'm guessing, is Walmart.
Walmart, Save on Foods.
Yeah. And Save on Foods and 7-Eleven, so I guess we shouldn't be naming all of them. So there you go. Anyone else for a second time who wishes to speak in support of the bylaw? Please come down to the podium for a third and final time. Anyone in support of the bylaw, please come down to the podium and state your first and last name. Do we have anyone online? No? Anyone opposed to the bylaw in the gallery who wishes to speak, please come down to the podium. Second time. Anyone opposed to the bylaw who wishes to speak, please come down to the podium. Third and final time. Anyone in the gallery who wishes to oppose the bylaw, please come down to the podium. Anyone online? All right. Any further questions from council before we close the hearing? All right. The public hearing is hereby closed at 9:08 p.m. And I will entertain a motion for second reading of bylaw 4866, which received first reading on December 15th.
I'll make the motion that council considers second reading of bylaw 4866 to rezone 5366, 5368, 5371, 5373, and 5377, 5379, Southlands Drive Southeast.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Rezone to medium density.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
It's
implied.
fine.
Okay, excellent.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, and thank you as well to Caleb. I always appreciate your insights, and so thanks for taking the time. I am generally in support of, I mean, we hear it often over and over again that we need more housing, we need more, more units. And so when I see a development like this with, that I think has given a unique opportunity with a a potential basement suite. I think that's a good thing. I do hear, I mean, we get all the emails, people in opposition. I think the general opposition is parking, which I think we've addressed. Although I think saying, you know, there's 2.4 spots, I mean, there's not a 0.4 of a car. There's a lot, when you go down there and you go try parking 17 or 27 cars there, you'll very quickly find out that's not a crazy amount of room. So I think people are justified in being concerned about that. I hear often though, you know, this is going to reduce my property value. And I understand that. I understand we got some high value homes just down the street, but I would love to be able to actually find out, does this legitimately reduce the property value of those homes? Because that is probably the number one concern that we hear. So I think that's just something I'm putting out there to say, yeah. Also, we hear, this was brought up a few times with this, that this is a foregone conclusion. So because the developer already started building on this property, the message it sends to the people in opposition is that it doesn't matter because we've already approved the permit for this. I know that's not the truth. The truth is that there's been a permit that's been applied for a duplex, which falls under the bylaw, and then they're building that duplex with the potential to put in a basement suite. But the messaging that is given to the citizens is that this is all a farce. And so I understand that that's not the developer's intent, but I really wish that wouldn't happen because, you know, we can say all we want that this is what actually happened, but I don't know that that message is going to be received.
Well, to be fair, the developer applied for a development permit and it was like, everything was above board and it certainly wasn't their responsibility to
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean to put that on the developer. I think it just in general, the visual or whatever, the message I think is a challenging one, although it's very fair that the developer would do that.
Thank you. Councillor Hellman?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I read through some of the emails too, leading up to this meeting, and there was some concerns, as Councillor Young pointed out, parking, property values, et cetera. But one that stood out for me was that I would not have purchased here in 2019 had I known that this was going to be developed here. And that kind of resonated with me a little bit. I think that's a fair criticism by a resident in the area. So they've purchased 6 or 7 years ago based on what the community was zoned for at the time and what they can expect and anticipate as development, reasonable development down the street from them. And this represents a change from that. So I look at my own neighborhood where I live in Ranchlands, and there's single family houses, there's multifamily units, and then there's another development going on the corner in the entranceway that's going to be several stories high. And it's all been zoned like that since I purchased when I bought my house in 2011 in Ranchlands. So I don't really have an argument to make in that sense because it was already like that. I should expect it to develop like that. But in this case, when these people purchased their properties, this one in particular in 2019, that was not a plan that they got involved in through the purchase of their property. So I don't think it's really reasonable, if they're opposed to that, I don't think it's reasonable for us to make changes 6 or 7 years later, different from what it was meant to be when they bought their house. So I won't be supporting this change.
Councillor Cox?
I have appreciation for Councillor Hellman's point. I will be supporting the bylaw because the duplex was a permitted use all along. The only difference is they're wanting to put in a basement suite. Construction looks identical whether you put the basement suite in or you don't. So for those who are caught off guard, shouldn't have been caught off guard because duplexes were always an approved use for that property. As for the addition of the basement suite, I think I can live with that appropriate adjustment to the density of the property. It will probably result in a little additional parking pressure, but I think it's appropriate, and I can support it at this time. I think the other thing that's to be noted is this creates an affordable housing option, because when you can have a secondary suite, either to rent to a student or a young couple, or perhaps an elderly parent, or whatever. I think that those things are that contribute to the affordability of housing, and for people to get into a house and a mortgage deserve our support. So I will be supporting this.
Before I go to Councillor Varga, I do just want to ask if Managing Director Bohan or the Planning Department are aware, up to Councillor Young's point, are aware of any evidence for or against the idea that multifamily reduces the surrounding housing prices?
Thank you, Your Worship. Any information I could give tonight would be purely anecdotal, but I'll just note that we don't have any supporting information regarding that today, on either side.
But certainly stores and amenities would be more likely with more population, I would think, but we're speculating, so I'm gonna stop doing that. Councillor Varga?
I too will be supporting this, and I guess I don't understand it. It looks like a normal duplex, just like the ones, not quite like the ones that are beside it. But it is a duplex, and really, if you were to drive by, you wouldn't know that there was a basement suite there, right? Other than the amount of cars that are there. I think it's a great concept. Like you said, it's affordable for some people. And the great part about it is that you can buy the whole unit and rent out the bottom or rent out the top, whatever you want to do, and make a commitment to paying some of your mortgage off by doing that. So I think it's a great concept, and it's a density issue also. I did have one question for the developer. They show, and one concern that came from some of the letters that we got was the boulevard. Are you going to look after the boulevard and make sure that it looks like the rest of the areas? Or is that not, is that in the development permit?
That is probably better for the public hearing, but there are rules around that,
Okay,
who
that's all I need to know.
maintain the boulevards.
Your Worship, I guess we're talking about public property, which would be what a boulevard is. It would be a portion of the road that is between, which is enclosed between a curb and beyond a sidewalk. We have, I believe, the Parks Department implements the boulevard policy, which would typically have the adjacent homeowner maintain the boulevard and shovel the sidewalks.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Varga?
It's just, I've done enough landscaping to know that when it's not their own property, they don't tend to do it. So I'm just concerned about that issue when other neighbors look after their place, and it's a concern. I don't know who looks after it, but it is a concern all the time when it is city property and then it doesn't get looked after. So it is a concern for me down the road as to how it gets looked after or what the enforcement is or how they do it. So it is a concern because I've seen it many times. We can plant grass, but they don't have to water it, right?
Yeah,
So,
I would suggest that would be the same regardless of what development went in on those lots. Someone would have to maintain the boulevard. Councillor Young?
Thank you. To Councillor Hellman's point, and I can appreciate that, right? You buy a property and it's zoned a specific way, but it kind of sparked me. This isn't the first medium density rezoning in this area. I mean, there's a big apartment down the street, 16 units or something like that, and then kitty corner to one of these or across the street, there's multi-family unit, right? So that's medium density. So I'm not challenging, I'm just, how does that play into it? And then, I mean, the last one we were just talking about, well, Harlow was all single family, but we're now talking about changing it. At some point, they do change. I mean, that's why we have these hearings. So I just want to understand that a little bit more. Like, isn't that kind of what happens in neighborhoods?
Councillor Hellman.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. I think those other ones, though, were zoned like that from the beginning. So the plan for that neighborhood was that there would be an apartment building there. So nobody's going to buy a lot there and then come back and complain that I knew all along there was going to be an apartment building, but I still bought here anyway, and now I don't want it. That would be unreasonable. But I think in this case, they've purchased a house some time ago, or a duplex or whatever it is, and this is a change from what it was planned to be. That's my concern.
Can I ask a follow-up? Just how often does,
Sure.
sorry, but how often does that happen? Is this something, I mean, I guess the planning would know better.
If I may, even if it's zoned, and it's not low density, is it the low density? There's a spectrum, so you're not guaranteed that even in a single family that someone isn't gonna put a basement suite in or an accessory suite. In fact, we're trying to encourage those to happen. I don't know if there are statistics regarding how often something gets rezoned, but it's not infrequent. And I would suggest, I'll let Councillor Cox go.
Councillor Hellman and I discussed this briefly over supper, the changing from I keep using those old terminologies, from R1 to R2. Now, if it was an application to change from R1 to R2, I would be opposed, and for exactly the same reasons that Councillor Hellman is opposed. When I buy an R1 lot, I expect that, and the neighborhood is all zoned to R1, I'm expecting single-family detached houses. But when I buy a lot and the zoning is L2, which is now the lowest density we can have, to change this from a duplex to a duplex with a suite in the basement is not a big shift. And so for that reason, I can support it. But I think that's a distinction. And yeah, we don't see changes in magnitude that often. And this is not in my view, not a change in zoning of great magnitude. If they were planning to, I mean, and R3 does, or sorry, what do they call it? Medium density, MD, does start to sound, because it allows three-story buildings and so forth. That's obviously not going to fit on this property, but nonetheless, when you see an application to rezone, why can I not get that straight? MD, anyway, medium density, that probably just on its surface causes some concerns. And like if the intention was to build an apartment building here, I would definitely be opposed, but I'm not.
All right. I will be also voting in favor. I think it's a development that is not, it doesn't change the nature of the neighborhood to a significant degree. The aesthetic fits in with the overall neighborhood. And I understand, you know, having things change in your neighborhood can be stressful. However, our role is to consider the overall wellness, welfare of the community as a whole. And certainly, if we don't have more multifamily housing, we already are in a serious housing crunch. And this seems to me to be a good balance of density while fitting in the overall aesthetic and nature of the neighborhood, which I think is a benefit for the community overall. So we'll vote. All right. Third reading.
I will make the motion. Do I have to read it all again? I can. It doesn't matter. Okay. No? Okay, council give third, I make the motion that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4866 to rezone 5366, 5368, 5371, 5373, and 5377, 5379 Southlands Drive Southeast.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on third and final reading of bylaw 4866. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Monroe, for your presentation. We have yet another public hearing. This is with respect to bylaw 4868, and it received first reading on December 15th, 2025. And we are going to, I'm going to call the public hearing to order at 9:26 p.m., noting that we have a stop time at 10 p.m. We will have our introduction from administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council. New Tab Homes has made an application to rezone a lot in Southlands Phase 6. Again, land use bylaw amendments must be referred to council for decision, and I apologize in advance for this being repetitive, as it's a very similar presentation to the previous.
Well, feel free to, go quickly.
I can't guarantee anything. Southlands Phase 6 is the last phase of development in Southlands. This application proposes to rezone the parcels shown on the screen from low density to medium density. The application was made to facilitate the construction of basement suites within the previously approved semi-detached dwelling currently under construction. The low-density residential district has a density cap of 2 dwellings per parcel. Therefore, rezoning to medium density is required to allow for the basement suites. In 2004, 2007, and 2011, council approved minor adjustments to the overall plan for the Southlands community. We have confirmed that the proposed rezoning will not result in a significant departure from the density targets for Southlands Phase 6. Again, we have this snapshot of the current build-out status of Phase 6. The single lot highlighted in blue on the left-hand side of the map is the subject of this application. Again, some comparable suburban densities in Medicine Hat to show that overall the density of Southlands is generally considered typical when compared to other suburban communities. On this slide is a count of parking spots for the property, which there are 8. And this slide shows the parking assessment in a table form. Each dwelling, 4 in total, would have access to 2 parking spots. Again, we have some images of the property and an opportunity to emphasize some key points. In terms of the planning for Southlands Phase 6, as has been stated, the current build-out status, we can be confident everything's in order. Phase 6 has been developed in a manner that is consistent with the adopted plans. The decision to approve the proposed rezoning would not result in a shift away from those adopted plans. And we've included this parking assessment to demonstrate a good amount of parking availability. This concludes this presentation. The formal request for decision on bylaw 4868 is on the slide. On December 3rd, the Municipal Planning Commission recommended that City Council approve this application. This is not a development permit application, however. Approval will allow for the development of 2 basement suites within the semi-detached duplex under construction located at 308, 310 Somerside, Cres Southeast for a total of 4 units. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Councillor Varga.
This development is totally different than the other one because there is a front garage that's involved in this one, right? So it looks like the existing homes that are around the other one. So it is a little different concept. And I think it's a double car garage in both of them, I believe. So I think there's 4 parking stalls in each unit in the front with the garage. So I believe so. But so we got plenty of parking. And again, the concept, I'm all for the concept. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Pfaff. And just to know, I know we're discussing the development itself, but the public hearing is just regarding the rezoning. Councillor Pfaff?
Can I make the motion right now?
We are still in the
Oh, we're still in
public
the hearing.
hearing.
Okay, then I will shut up.
Would the applicant like to make a presentation? No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Monroe. If there's anyone who wishes to speak in support of this bylaw, please come down to the podium for a second time. If there's anyone who wishes to speak for this bylaw, in support of this bylaw, please come down to the podium. And for a third and final time, if there's anyone who wishes to speak in support of this bylaw, please come down to the podium. While you're writing your name again, I will ask City Clerk for the notification report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first reading of this bylaw was on December 15th, 2025. Notification letter was sent out to the adjacent properties on December 16th. Public notice subject to the bylaw was published in the Medicine Hat News on the 20th and the 27th of December, and 2 written submissions were received in opposition to the bylaw change.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Caleb Orge speaking in favor, and this is the kind of development that I'm most excited to see tonight, because this is a building that's yet to come in and it's expanding to add more units. It changes little to nothing about the nature of the neighborhood, but it increases the density, it increases the number of houses in Medicine Hat, it increases the tax base. It's all things we'd love to see. While I am going to ask my usual question about the nearest bus stop and grocery store, I do want to address something Councillor Hellman said about the last bylaw as well. People are forced by the nature of the economy into making one of 2 choices. Housing is housing or housing is investment. And we don't live in a part of the world like Japan that really gets the choice of getting housing as a consumer good because an earthquake will just knock it down in 10 years anyway. So when people are buying a house that they're going to have to pay off for 20 years or more, they have to see it as a significant financial investment that they'll have to deal with for the rest of their life. And so any change to the neighborhood that affects their property value becomes significantly important. I'm pretty sure most, if not all of you, are homeowners. You deal with that, you look at it every day. The second you have your house, you don't want anything that that brings down the value of your housing. Meanwhile, there's still people like me out there who are desperate to have anything at all we can call our own instead of being held hostage in the rent market. And so you guys, as members of council, do not have to worry about that. As best I understand, the way the mill rate works is value per foot of curb. So the bigger and the more expensive building, the better it is for the city, the better it is for digging ourselves out of this debt hole. We need to respect the people who already live here, the people whose value is the value of their homes, and folks like me who want to get somewhere we can call our own. right? But for you guys and for the long-term health of the city, it's those dollars per foot of curb. It's that mill rate. It's that bringing more people into the city and building a more valuable city for us all to live in. So if I can throw it over to you about where people can go to get access to transit and food.
And Managing Director Barta, the mill rate will be coming forward, and we'll have a little presentation on how it's calculated.
Yeah, that's correct. There'll be, the assessment results will be coming forward to council, as well as we are providing council with an assessment 101 just to help council understand how the assessment valuations are.
'Cause it isn't
determined.
quite as simple as per foot of curb. It includes the building and square footage and all of that. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Gange.
Your worship, I think I have the same answer. Route 56 and 61 both access the main transfer point located near the intersection of Strachan Bay Southeast and Dunmore Road Southeast. I think you could take your pick for shopping. These 3 or more power centers where Walmart, Save-On, Sobeys are located.
Thank you very much. Anyone online? Okay, anyone who wishes to speak against this bylaw, please come down to the podium and state your name. For a second time, anyone who wishes to speak against the bylaw, please come down to the podium. Third and final time, if anyone wishes to speak against this bylaw, please come down to the podium. Is there anyone online? No? Okay. Any final questions from council? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing at 9:37 p.m. And we are now on to 9:35, business arising from the hearing for bylaw 4868. Councillor Pfaff.
I move that council considers second reading of bylaw 4868 to rezone 308, 310 Somerside Crescent.
I'll second that.
All right, so did you want to speak to your motion? Nope.
We've heard everything we need to hear.
Okay, I don't see any other speakers, so we'll vote on the motion to give second reading to bylaw 4868. That's unanimous. We could go for third reading.
I move that council considers third reading of bylaw 4868 to rezone 308, 310 Somerside Crescent Southeast.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no speakers, we'll vote on the motion. That passes. Was that an error, Councillor Cox? No, it's not an error. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. That concludes our public hearing portion of the evening. Thank you very much to administration and all the presenters. New business, item 10.1, Electoral Boundary Commission. This is regarding a council submission to the Electoral Boundary Commission, and Councillor Cox will provide a verbal update.
Thank you. This is more, I guess, for the public's benefit. We are going to be making a submission. We are registered to make a submission to the Electoral Boundaries Commission. I believe it's January the 16th, but it's coming up. It'll be done remotely. And I thank council for their input to me as I forwarded my thoughts on this issue. I want to assure both council and the public that I am satisfied that this is not a partisan political process, that there are duly appointed members of this commission who represent all the political interests in this province, and that the commission takes its work seriously. The thrust of the city's submission based on your input and my own view of the matter, is that we should be advocating for a return to something similar to the former boundaries of our two ridings, Cypress Medicine Hat and Medicine Hat, where there was Kerry Drive and the southern part of the city was was included in Cypress County. We certainly have lots in common with Cypress, albeit it's a rural riding, but that's a big part of our service community. Brooks, on the other hand, is also a city, and its interests are not always in direct alignment with ours. I think an urban riding such as Medicine Hat, we are the 6th largest city in the province, should have an MLA that represents the urban core of this city, much as the many ridings in Edmonton and Calgary do. You can imagine the uproar if there was to be a kind of dividing of Edmonton into pieces of pie that started in the city center and ended up somewhere out in the farmland adjacent. So I think in this case, we've got some points to make, and I thank you for your support as I go forward with those submissions.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to support the submission to the Electoral Boundary Commission as outlined by Councillor Cox at tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Seconder?
Second it.
Thank you, Councillor Reinish. We will vote. All right, that's unanimous. Councillor Varga has a question.
To Councillor Cox, through the chair, when does that have to be in by, Councillor Cox?
The opportunity for written submissions was in December, so that's passed. But we took advantage and registered to make an oral submission. So, and that will take place, I believe it's January the 16th. I see a nod from the city clerk. So we've got a time reserved for that. I think it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon of January 16th. So you can all tune in and hear what I've got to say.
Thank you. Item 10.2, which is an item that was added by council, is business arising from closed council. And Councillor Pfaff has a motion to make. I will ask Councillor Pfaff to make her motion, and then if it gets seconded, I will come back to Councillor Pfaff for her comments regarding the motion.
Okay, I make the motion that council directs administration to postpone the decision on RFP number CMH 2505 until further notice.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Cox seconds. Councillor Pfaff, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I do. So this RFP is in regards to the design portion of the Southside rec center. So this was a directive given prior to this council, from the previous council. And it is for the, as I said, for the design. So right now there's an RFP out for companies, design companies to make submissions, and then if this were to be awarded, the city would be spending up to $3.9 million on this design. So that's the normal process, how that goes. However, the new council, I think, should have the time to discuss the design prior to awarding any contract to do it. And we just haven't had that time to even really look over the existing design or even discuss, you know, all options available. So this will just give us time to be able to do that. And also save us money. If we award this RFP and then we decide that we don't like the design, we've lost that $3.9 million. But this way, we just haven't spent any money yet. We can spend it later if and when we want to do that. That's the rationale.
Thank you. Councillor Cox?
Sorry, Your Worship. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I support this pause. I think we've been saddled with a decision of the last council made at their last meeting. A lot of money to decide to spend at your last meeting. And a decision that I know they felt had been kind of dithered over and postponed, and in the desire to create some equity between the north and the south side, they responded to this matter and said, let's go ahead with the design. I think it behooves us to put a hold on that, look at the whole thing and where we've been and where we're going and why we're doing these things. There are a lot of factors that come to play here, not the least of which is we have a magnificent facility in the Big Marble, which is, by anyone's estimation, I'm comfortable in saying grossly underutilized. So when we consider that, I think the needs for what should happen on the on the south side need to be reevaluated and taken a very close look at. And I look forward to doing that during the next term.
Councillor Mohammed.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair. So I definitely agree with pausing, but I'm hoping that we wouldn't hold this too much longer, because if we're going to move ahead with having something on the south side, I mean, it's going to take a while to build. So there is an opportunity. I mean, that's, holding off some of those things has impact on, some economic opportunity for the city, some, the vibrancy on that part of town. There are a lot of families and youth, and I have to say I am engaged with that community. That's the world that I live in. So I know that that's a huge part for sports organizations, youth in our community. And we talked about, youth leaving our community, all of that. So I'd like to see something that actually represent, that aspect of our community, to make sure that, we're moving ahead with some of these things without necessarily holding it off too long. So I agree with pausing, but I would like us to have some kind of timeline so that we don't drag this too long. Thank you.
Councillor Hellman.
Pardon me. Yep. Thank you, through the chair. Speaking also in favor of pausing, I just think that this was a decision, as mentioned before, made by the previous council that has a fairly big price tag to it. I think it runs anywhere from $50 million to $150 million, depending on if it's just the outdoor swim facility all the way to a full rec facility like the Big Marble in the south. So tax implications are a big part of my push to put a hold on this for the time being for further consideration, as it could be anywhere from an additional 3.5% tax increase all the way up to 11 or 12% on top of 5.6% that we're already looking at. So I don't know that there's appetite in our community for that kind of increase at this time. And I think there's some other things we need to consider too. As mentioned, there is potential for some cash injection from the province on a project like this, but we don't know if that's available or not. So maybe some more research on that first before we go to a design phase and invest that kind of money in that. And then there's other things to consider too, is what exactly do we want this water park to be? Do we want it to be just the same as other cities? And just be for use for families here, or do we want it to be a tourist attraction that is, bigger and better than what other cities have, that brings in tourist dollars here, and also, promotes us as a place to live for young families, and promotes future growth of our city. So I think, if I'm going to be accountable for potential tax increases anyways, I want to have some more time to digest this, maybe work through strategic planning on what our goals are as a collective council and give it some more thought before we just move forward today. So I'm in favor of pausing. Thank you.
Councillor Varga.
So, and my outlook is the same as Councillor Mohammed. Hopefully we get to this sooner than later, you know what I mean, in order to make a decision as to where we're going to go forward. I mean, the community through the surveys have said that they want this thing in the south side. So I think it's important that we come up with a decision and some way of going about maybe making it happen without the burden on the taxpayers, if we can do it that way, right? It all depends on how much money we can get from the feds and the province and how much we're willing to sink into it too. So I'm hoping that we can look at it fairly soon. I know we got lots of things on our plate, but I think that's important to get that moving forward, so.
Councillor Reinish.
We're looking for a dare to be great situation here, friends. That's what we're looking for, and we want to make sure we get it right for you. And everybody in the South End who said that they want a facility like this in the South End, we just want to make sure we're getting it right. And if there's money available, as Councillor Vargas said, from other folks, other institutions, other people, then let's make the cost to the taxpayers as low as possible. But again, we're looking for something great here, not just something to open in the summer of 2029.
All right, seeing no further speakers, I am going to support this pause. I do think that I'm keen to move forward with something, but I understand that there's different ways to approach it, phasing wise, indoor versus outdoor pool. You know, we want to make sure that I'm comfortable making sure that this council is comfortable with what is a very large spend. Councillor Mohammed, do you wish to make an amendment to the motion regarding timeline?
Yes, I'd appreciate that, because then we don't drag too long.
So what are you thinking for, we could also refer the item to Public Services Committee.
We can refer to do what, to suggest the timeline?
Yeah.
Sure. What would you guys do?
Councillor Cox?
Chairman of Public Services, this is going to come to us. I would rather not put a date on it now. You know, the last council kind of dithered about this thing, and finally, in the 11th hour, they said, oh, let's make a decision and spend $3.9 million for preliminary design. Now we've got that decision. I don't know how long it's going to take us to figure out where and how we want to go, but I don't think the situation on the south side of the city is that desperate that we need to put a timeline on this. We want to deal with it. It'll come forward quickly, but 6 months would be very artificial, and I don't know if we'd be ready by then.
Councillor Young.
Yeah, appreciate it. The timeline's tough. Like Councillor Mohammed, I hear you. I'm the same. Like I got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and if we're going to build this, I want them to be able to enjoy it while, you know, before they're whatever 18. But on the flip side, we're not just stopping for the sake of stopping. The impetus to this is a $4 million price tag to get some drawings, which are important. I understand that, but that's $4 million, and it's not about whether or not we want it to be purple or green or square or circle. It's we need to understand as a council, is this something that we're really okay pushing forward with? So I don't know about the timeline, but I agree. I don't want to do the dithering and continue to push it down the line. And I'm wary too. We don't want to start this process all over again. The citizens have given their feedback, but yeah, at 11% tax increase, I think people would have a lot more to say. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm going to wedge in City Manager Hutter before going to Councillor Pfaff.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the chair, I just wanted to remind council when it comes to achieving an indication from the province and the federal government on potential funding, we are in a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. We would likely need to have some design to bring to those levels of government for them to make an indication whether or not they're going to fund. So without having that, our conversations with the federal government and the province aren't going to go very far. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Councillor Pfaff?
I'll just be quick. I just think we shouldn't put a timeline on it for.
We don't even have a motion for a
Okay, great,
timeline
because
at this
it's
point.
specifically to an RFP number, what, yeah, so.
'Kay.
Anyways, yes.
Councillor Mohammed, are you okay with that?
Absolutely. If that's what council wants to do, I think I can live with that. I just wanted to also caution that, you know, we have engaged the public on this. People have given their input. So if we just table this, that's also communicating something to the people that have been engaged. So just keep that in mind. I think it's more of a sense of communicating also that we are paying attention to what matters to others as well. So talking about it, a redesign doesn't mean that we're going to approve this project. So, but at the same time, it puts us into planning, it puts us into conversation, looking at, you know, seeing the numbers of what we can potentially get from the feds or the province. But at the same time, at least there's some kind of a opportunity to discuss this. I mean, conversations has come around. It can be a topic for doing our strategic priority, which it can. But if we don't actually even right now plan it, then there's nothing to talk about. So I'm strongly recommending that we have some kind of plan attached to pausing this. Thank you.
Good point. We can discuss it in strategic planning. City Manager Hutter.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the chair, I was hoping that we could potentially consider amending that motion to read cancel rather than postpone. And there could be a caveat on there that we will return at some point. Procedurally, it would be easier and make more sense if we were to just be a little cleaner with the language and just say cancel.
I could, I guess, make that amendment?
I think it's a,
Or just, just rewrite it?
I think it's fine just to, we agree cancel instead of postpone.
Can I ask just a quick question?
We
don't have time.
We gotta,
Okay.
I am gonna request after this is dealt with a motion to extend the time of council because we have a couple of items left.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just think cancel is a very strong word. I understand that, but if we say cancel, then the message, going back to Councillor Mohammed, the message to the community is we're canceling this. And so I understand, Manager Hutter, that word is, it's loaded.
I think also what it should read is cancel the RFP rather than the decision on RFP. Messaging will be important. It's just, that is what we're doing. So we're gonna vote on the motion that council directs administration to cancel RFP number CMH 2505 until further notice. I think until, it doesn't matter. Can I please get a motion to two things? I need to add an item regarding appointment of interim city manager and a motion to extend the time of the meeting to accommodate completion of the additional item and item 11.1.
I will make that motion. It grieves me to do so, but I think it's necessary and it won't delay us too long. So I do make the motion to extend the time.
Thank
Do we need
you.
a fixed amount of time to 10:30 or just
It'll be
extend the
quick.
time?
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you. We'll vote on the motion. That's unanimous. At our last meeting, council authorized me to appoint an interim city manager whilst we conduct the recruitment process for a permanent city manager. And we now have to officially approve as a council that appointment. And I am pleased to say that Managing Director Hutter has agreed to a appointment for a 3-month period. I would suggest, though, that we just appoint him as city manager for the time being 3 months. So the motion would be, council hereby appoints Joseph Hutter to the position of CAO
I would like to make that motion
for
that
the period, sorry,
council hereby appoints
For-
Manager Joe Hutter to the position of CAO for the period January 1st through to March 31st, 2026.
Second.
thank you. Councillor Mohammed seconds. We will, is there any discussion? We'll vote on the motion. That's unanimous, and with thanks to Interim City Manager Hutter. Thank you. Item 11.1 is business arising from development and infrastructure. I am going to ask that someone put the motion on the floor.
Sure. So this motion here? Okay. I move that council direct administration to provide all outstanding council motion for all standing committees at the January 19, 2026, the regular meeting of City Council, as an opportunity to understand the background of previous motions and determine the next steps.
So there are 3 motions here. If, I think we're probably okay to do them all at once.
All right. Okay, second motion, I move that council direct administration to provide a complete list of outstanding and upcoming budgeted capital projects to be constructed in 2026 for all standing committee on council at the January 19, 2026 regular meeting of City Council. I move that, so that's the third motion. I move that council direct administration to provide the relevant policies and bylaws for each of the standing committees at the January 19, 2026 regular meeting of City Council.
I'll second all 3 of those.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mohammed, do you wish to speak to your motion? Or would Councillor Pfaff can?
Absolutely. I'm just going to comment on it. I think that this is, this is kind of really in line with even our previous conversation with, the Southside Event Center, if you call it. It's just really an opportunity for this council to wrap their head around motions and projects that have been approved that have not started yet. So that's an opportunity for this council to kind of see what's going on and ask the question before approving it. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Pfaff?
I would just like to make possibly a friendly amendment to the second part where it says, council direct administration to provide a complete list of outstanding upcoming budgeted capital projects to be constructed in 2026. There may be some that won't be constructed till 27, so could we just remove that 2026 and just be to be constructed? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you guys, I don't know, I just think.
Can I apologize for doing this. I'm wondering if we could make a more broad amendment to say, council direct administration to provide a complete list of outstanding and upcoming budgeted capital projects and major operating expenses
I like that.
for all standing committees on council at the January 19th, 2026 regular council meeting. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Well, I think it can be taken as a friendly amendment to the motion.
It adds an entire additional scope of work. The major operating expenses are separate from the capital. So I would suggest that someone just says that they so move.
Well, we have motions on the floor. We either
Well, we can-
amend them.
I'm asking, so the
Or-
motion to amend,
I'll make the motion to amend that.
you can't. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can. A seconder?
Second.
Thank you. We'll vote on the motion to amend.
Can we
Thank
just
you.
see it?
Yep.
I don't think it is
And
written right.
City Manager Hutter.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the chair, I have a couple questions, like some clarification on motions, or parts 2 and 3 of that motion. As it relates to the second motion, or sorry, the second piece of that motion, the outstanding budgeted capital projects. I just want to ensure that we deliver on exactly what you guys are looking for. We do already post these on the website, in the triennial reports. Are you satisfied with us just providing that budget document that we already have, or are you looking for further information?
I think what we're looking for is per committee. So separating out, because the committees are required to kind of monitor their own areas, it isn't necessarily clear to the committees which items are within their scope. And so basically a breakdown or breakout of public services, major operating expenses, and capital budget items to the Public Services Committee, D&I Committee, and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Second clarifying question, for the third part of that motion, the relevant policies and bylaws. Now, are you referring to policies and bylaws that specifically relate to the committees, or are you talking about a policy in, the Parks and Rec Department that would be relevant to the Public Services Committee, if that makes sense?
Yes, both. So for each committee, what are the bylaws and policies that they're responsible for? So we're hoping to have a policy framework come forward and ensure that policies are being reviewed every term and bylaws are being reviewed, depending on the bylaw, more frequently by the committees. So it's also to ensure that the committees understand their legislative obligations and policy obligations. So for example, what is it called? The Respectful Animal Ownership Bylaw? Responsible Animal Ownership Bylaw, that would probably go to both probably public services, but may have overlap with other departments. Does that make sense? Okay. Councillor Pfaff.
And just back to your first question, City Manager Hutter. So this came out of DNI. Oh, yeah, obviously, we already said that, which I am a part of. So, for example, I realize, like, on the website, there's a list of all the upcoming growth capital projects that are coming, but then there's other capital projects like, for example, the walking paths in Northlands area were repaved this year. So was there somewhere on the website where I could find that? I'm not sure, but that's through Parks and Rec. I realize that's not through DNI, but that would be an example of a project that I would like to have awareness of. So I'd like that too.
Thank you, through the chair, to Councillor Pfaff. Yes, we do also list the sustaining capital. So, for example, we have, I think, about $8 million this year in public services, almost exclusively within Parks and Rec for various, irrigation line replacements, et cetera. All of that is listed, but it's just simply a one-line description of what it is. It doesn't go into further detail.
Okay. It also saves us, especially given the number of new councillors, having to go to different sources to compile the information, and it's just simpler for the committee. Councillor Cox.
Yeah, I don't, these things can, just make sure every bylaw and policy goes to some committee, and if they detect that it overlaps, we'll share it. And I agree that this may be readily available information, and for those who've got the time to do the research, I'm sure we could sit down with the computer and figure it all out. But there are a lot of us, like myself, who would rather have administration just give us a printout that we can put in the front of our city council binder so that we know what we're talking about.
And I'm not sure that what's on the screen reflects the actual amendment that was made, so it should say council direct administration to provide a complete list of outstanding and upcoming budgeted capital projects and major operating expenses for all standing committees. And then just at the January 19th, 2026 regular meeting of council. Is that accurate? Okay, we will vote. That's unanimous, and that concludes our business for the evening. We're gonna try and put a scrum together here. And I appreciate everyone's time. We went a little long, and I am aware that that is not ideal. So thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.